Hello, all, and welcome. A very good morning to the last and final day of the sixth edition of Model Conference of Parties. I am Caroline Pace, part of the WWF-India workforce, and your host for the day. Before we deep dive into day four, some important things to note. As instructed in the
Caroline, we will
yes,
start in 2 minutes. We are going to
okay,
begin. We are just
all right,
setting up the tech part of it.
okay, no problem. So, good morning to all our students. Anyway, Cheta and Rani, Tangalakshmi, Ashwarya. Nice to have you all back for the fourth day. We'll be starting in 2 minutes. Just a few technical things to sort. All right, we are ready to begin. So, once again, a very warm welcome and a very, very good morning. And welcome back to the last and final day of the sixth edition of the Model Conference of Parties. I'm Caroline Pace, part of the WWF India workforce, and I will be your host for today. So, before we deep dive into day four, some important things to note. As you have been instructed in the past, please be cordial, respectful, and attentive for the duration of this session. So, you've had a jam packed 3 days of MCOP. Let's have a quick recap of the past 3 days. Day one introduced you to all the uh, Day one introduced you all to the Global Biodiversity Framework and the National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans. Dr. J. Saundrapandi gave an insightful session on the same. We had Dr. V.B. Mathur take you through the mechanisms of negotiation and consensus building. And finally, we had Dr. Arindran Gopala outline how technology can be used for conservation. Day 2 focused on smart action planning, and we had Ms. Vishesh Uppal help you decode Target 30 by 30 and your team targets. Yesterday was day 3, which once again was packed with learning, starting with the remarkable Dr. Sejal Bora sharing how essential biodiversity is for a sustainable future. Mr. Saurabh Bharadwaj demystified the link between climate action and conservation. We had experts from the WWF India communications team share how one can use effective communication for conservation. And finally, Dr. Praveer Deshmukh gave us a detailed look at sustainability in businesses. So now let's look at the agenda for today. We will begin with an educational session on conservation, gender, and indigenous communities by Ms. Neha Sinha, Head Policy and Communications, WWF India. This will be followed by Ms. Priyanka Singh, Senior Manager, Environment Education, WWF India, who will be instructing you on reporting and documenting conservation action. Then we will have the school teams present your action plans and will receive live feedback from Ms. Neha Raghav, Director, Environment Education, and Ms. Avni Gupta, Senior Program Officer, Content and Training, WWF India. So, and finally, of course, we will have Dr. Ruchi Pant from the United Nations Development Program help us understand environmental conventions. So, let's get started. First off, I invite on camera Ms. Neha Sinha. Ms. Sinha is an award winning wildlife conservationist with a specialization in environment policy. After being a journalist for 5 years with the Indian Express, Neha left mainstream journalism to study conservation science, which she pursued at Oxford University. Ms. Sinha currently heads policy and communications at WWF India. The stage is yours, Neha. We are just broadcasting Neha on the camera. Just give us a minute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Neha.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and it's a great pleasure to be back here on the MCOP. Um, Let me start straight away with my presentation. Are you guys able to see this? Yes. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about conservation with respect to gender and indigenous communities. Now, gender is a word we hear very often. Usually we talk about gender as something that's male and female. But here in today's talk, I'm going to talk about gender with regard to what it means for marginalized communities. And also, when we talk about indigenous communities and indigenous people, I am referring to local people, forest dwellers, tribals who often live around areas where we do conservation. And even indigenous communities or indigenous peoples or tribal people are usually marginalized. They've usually been left behind from the development story. Their aspirations are not met. And often it has also happened that conservation has not reached out to the marginalized communities enough. So today's talk is going to talk a little bit about how we can make conservation more inclusive, how we can make it better, how we can make it more interesting and more diverse for everybody who lives around conservation areas. So let's start off with trying to understand where the world is today in terms of conservation, in terms of the wildlife that we share the planet with. It's very interesting when we talk to indigenous peoples, when we talk to tribal people, we often find them referring to wildlife as their cousins or as their kin, as their relatives, which are found in traditional systems of knowledge where people who've lived closely with wildlife, often forest dwellers, often tribal people, often indigenous people, have very close bonds. So the assumption is that if you are actually living close to the forest or in the forest or close to a grassland or wetland or any place with wildlife, you have sophisticated systems of understanding wildlife, of understanding nature. You have sophisticated medicinal systems and systems which look at wildlife very differently from the way, for example, me as a conservation biologist would look at wildlife. But just coming a little bit to the first graph, this is the rate of extinction of species in the world in the last 50 years. So this is from the Living Planet report, which is published by WWF. So this is last year's report, and we've actually found that there's been a 73% decline in the populations of average wildlife populations in the last 50 years. That is a huge decline. So, if you talk to your parents, they'll tell you they don't see vultures anymore. They don't see house sparrows anymore. The number of insects that used to be there in the world have dropped. These are anecdotal sort of experiences that our parents share with us, or our older people who've lived for longer have shared with us. But the science is also clear that we're actually losing wildlife. So if you look at the first graph on the right, which is terrestrial wildlife, you can also see how steeply the curve has come down, and it's a similar story for marine. So basically, we are facing an extinction crisis, and conservation therefore needs to step up. But the way we do conservation is very important. The way we take other people along is extremely important. And today we'll talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to start with this basic assumption that conservation should not actually leave anyone behind. So whether it's women, whether it's tribal people, whether it's any other kind of marginalized community, it could also be a community which hasn't had rights for a long time, which hasn't had access to things that we take for granted, such as hospitals and schools or other kinds of facilities. So every time we make a conservation plan, we have to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind. And traditionally, for the last 50 years or so, there is a dominant feeling that conservation has not engaged with marginalized communities as much as it can, because it's also quite difficult to reach out to communities which are marginalized when we're doing conservation. So for example, suppose I want to do a wolf conservation program in a scrub forest, because that's where wolves live. And there's a community that stays deep inside the forest. It's very hard to go there. It's hard to talk to them. It takes effort to find the time in my fieldwork to talk to them. Or I go to a village and the women don't want to talk to me. Just the men are doing all the talking. In these instances where it's very hard to reach out to a particular group, we have to work harder to reach out, simply because they have relationships with nature. They have attitudes and perceptions of nature that are extremely important. But the most important thing is, if we are doing conservation anywhere, the local stakeholders need to have the first say in what is going to happen. So even though we are facing an extinction crisis, we are dealing with the fact that wildlife is disappearing, that is no excuse to rush through conservation and to not take all the stakeholders into mind. This is our WWF-India footprint. So WWF-India works in many landscapes, seascapes, and riverscapes in India. So if you see the yellow portions, those are our terrestrial landscapes, meaning the stuff that we do on land for conservation. So you can see we have high altitude in Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh. We are all across the Tarai, which is the Indo-Nepal border. We are right in central India, Savai Madhopur. We are around Nagpur as well. The land of Mowgli from Jungle Book. We are in the northeast, and we are also in the Sundarbans. And now if you see the sort of shaded light blue on the coasts of India, those are our marine scapes where we are working along with the sea and along with the land, the coastal area. And you see the sort of thick blue lines, those are our riverscapes. So we are in a lot of places, and we make it a point to have an entire safeguards process which reaches out to local people, which reaches out to women, to ensure that they can be part of it, to ensure that we hear what they have to say when we're doing any kind of conservation. So whether we're doing something to save Ganga River, to have more water in the Ganga River, whether we are planning something around the tiger reserves in Madhya Pradesh, whether we're even finding new people to give grants to. I look after the grants in WWF. We always make sure that we go and meet the women, the local stakeholders, the indigenous or the tribal people who live around that area, because they are the ones who need to come in first. Traditionally, it has happened in some projects before us that those people's voices have come in last, and we believe that that cannot be the way forward. They have to be consulted first, and we try to co-create project design with them as much as is possible. Let me give you some examples. So this is this beautiful place in West Bengal called Purulia. So this is the work done by one of our grantees called HEAL, Human Alliance for Environment. And there's this kind of incredible landscape where you have all these forests, and you see this ridge of rock that just kind of stands up. And this ridge of rock in the surrounding forests has a lot of carnivores, a lot of predators. And now these predators, such as hyenas, such as leopards, such as wolves occasionally, they live alongside the people. So this is a hyena that was found on one of the camera traps. So not only is the hyena living there, so are certain tribal people who live there. And along with those tribal people are all the livestock that they have, because one of the main incomes of the people over there is having goats, and sometimes they even have larger livestock like cattle. So what happens when you have a place which is not a very big forest? It is a forest, but it's also surrounded by other kind of urban or peri-urban infrastructure, and you have these animals, wild animals, and you have people, and you have people's livestock. So oftentimes what happens, as you can guess, is that these wild animals are eating the livestock that people have. So they're basically eating the source of income that these people have. So what do we do? What is the way forward? I mean, can we just go there and tell them, don't do anything against the wildlife? Or do we need to sit down with them and work out a solution that works for both the people as well as the wildlife? So that is what our grantee has tried to do. So this is the work done by HEAL. What you're looking at is a traditional Chow dance. Chow is a dance of Eastern India in which these people wear masks. And the dancers wear masks and they tell these stories. So Chow traditionally had very traditional storylines, but what HEAL has tried to do is to bring this traditional dance form, which is very cultural and deeply ingrained in that area, to and use it to tell conservation stories. And why is this important? This is important because many times we try to find the same solution for everybody. Now, if you do a Chow dance in a city in Gujarat, maybe it won't have the same impact, because maybe people in Gujarat have not seen a Chow dance and they're not familiar with it. But people in East India all know what a Chow dance is. So it's very correct to first understand the local culture. It's very correct to sit down with our local stakeholders and to understand along with them how we can co-create a conservation plan that will make sense for that local context. So these people here are basically asking for coexistence with the leopard. You see, that's a leopard that's kind of crouching down. And so while the leopard is eating the goats, and sometimes maybe the hyenas are eating the goats and jackals are also in the area, what can we do to make sure people don't get harmed economically? So this is what we do. This is what HEAL is doing. So they sat down and did a whole bunch of focus group meetings. Focus group meetings means when you get a particular group, it could be, say, a group of village elders, it could be a group of women, it could be a group of young people, and sit down and talk to them. What can we do? What is the issue? How can it be solved? So the issue here was that goats were getting eaten by all the carnivores that lived there. And therefore, what HEAL decided to do, and I think it's very interesting and worth talking about, is that they made this goat bank. So this is not a vote bank, this is a goat bank. In this, we help them with setting up a kind of certain number of goats that are now being looked after by the local community. And every time a goat is eaten by a leopard or by a hyena, or sometimes there could be a jackal, also a pack of jackals, they are given a goat in compensation. And the whole point of this is not just to engage with the community, but the point also is the community is taking care of the goat bank. So it becomes a completely self-sustaining venture. And it also becomes something that people feel that they can see the solution, because the goats are right there where they can see them. So, the next time a carnivore is eating their livestock, maybe they won't feel as helpless as they've always traditionally felt. And the bylaws or the kind of norms or the rules that are sort of governing this goat bank have been thought through along with the community. The community came up with the bylaws. This is a tribal community, and they've also ensured that there'll be enough women on that community. on the committee that they've made to look after this goat bank, and also ensured that all the other concerns that people have can come in. So the bylaws can keep changing as people's needs or people's ideas change. So if they want to govern the goat bank differently, that is also possible. And all of this is happening because HEAL has taken the trouble of going during these focus group meetings and ensuring that all the stakeholders, the tribal, the women, have been engaged with. And that is the correct way to do conservation. It's much better than us sitting somewhere else deciding, oh, we need to save leopards, and just kind of forcing people to come along with us. This is another grantee of ours who's working in Kirakasal in Maharashtra. So this is the landscape of Kirakasal. It is it's kind of like an arid grassland slash scrubland, and on the right you see the fox. And this area, is traditionally been extremely neglected because these kind of areas don't look like the green forest that we are used to. So because they look so brown, um, they haven't been in protected areas. They haven't been looked at as places worth protecting. But there's a lot of biodiversity in dry areas as well, and I'm sure you already know this. And green is green, but brown is also green sometimes. Sometimes brown vegetation is perfectly alive and healthy. It just looks brown because it grows in a dry place. So in Kirakasal, there's a wolf conservation project that our grantee is working on, and they have basically tried to again do these focus group meetings with a heavy emphasis on involving women, because women bear the costs of conservation in a way that can often be hidden. Let me give you an example. So we're talking about carnivores right now, we're talking about wolves, and we're talking about leopards. So for example, traditionally in many communities, men go out to the marketplace to buy oil, to buy rice, to buy wheat, whatever the case might be, and the women go to the forest to bring back minor forest produce, such as tendu leaves, which make beedis, such as mahua flowers, which are sold as a commodity, such as bringing in heaps of bamboo or any other medicinal herb or plant which is being used in industries or being used in small scale companies. And women also go to get these headloads of wood or twigs, which they are burning, either to cook their food or to make a fire when it's very cold. And so therefore, if women are going inside the forest, they might have encounters with carnivores that we've spoken about. And sometimes those encounters are negative. And therefore, women bear the brunt of facing of facing carnivores, or they feel scared. And in my own research, I have found that in a particular set of people I worked with in Sariska Tiger Reserve, I found the women were more scared of tigers than men were, because women were encountering tigers more. Now, the tiger had never done anything to the women, but it's just a perception or a fear. So even that psychological impact of feeling frightened when you are going about your day-to-day activities is a cost that they have to bear. So it is very important that we must talk to women, and we must find out what the solutions are as per their experiences when we are making any conservation plans. So similarly, for wolf conservation, wolves also eat livestock, and they eat livestock in Maharashtra and other parts of India, because at the end of the day, it's a wild animal. It doesn't know the difference between someone's goat and maybe a wild ungulate or a wild deer, etc. So for them, it's all prey. So we need to ensure that when we are saving these wild animals, we can address some of the needs by people who live there, particularly the people who are very marginalized or the ones who don't get heard. So we do, in WWF, we do focus group meetings with women, and we make sure our partners or our grantees do it too. So over here, these ladies are talking about how wolf conservation can happen in the area without disrupting local lives. This is another grantee of ours who works in Odisha. It's called OPSA. OPSA is the name of the group. And here they have a lovely model. It's a restoration project for mangroves. You remember the map of India I showed you? So this is around the coastline of Orissa. Now, mangroves are an incredible adaptation strategy against cyclones. I don't know if you've read about the 1999 super cyclone that came to Orissa. It was devastating. A lot of people died. And after that, Orissa started this mangrove plantation scheme in which they planted mangroves as a buffer against the wrath of tropical cyclones and big storms. And with climate change increasing, storms are only going to increase. And in fact, they already have increased because India gets a couple of cyclones every year. And you must have also heard of the cyclones that are coming in the Philippines, in the United States, all over the globe, basically. These are storms that come from the sea and they make landfall, and they lead to a lot of damage of property and lives. So over here, the restoration is being led by women. It is also a way to empower women in communities where traditionally they might not have had that kind of importance or that kind of economic freedom. So while conservation doesn't always look at social development, the issues of social development and conservation are interlinked with each other. And we have to make the effort of finding out how they can be linked and how they can benefit each other as much as is possible. I'll come to the final group that I want to talk about. When we talk about tribal people, it is not just about involving them in stakeholder meetings. It is not just about co-creating conservation plans for them. It is also about finding scientists, researchers, and conservationists who are from tribal communities. So I think it would be most correct to work in areas which have different diversity of people and empower those people to run their own conservation projects. So we need more scientists and researchers who are from diverse backgrounds, who are from different communities than me or you. So this is a restoration project in Nagaland, which is a state in northeastern India. Nagaland is on the international border with Myanmar. And this is led by Wanmei Konyak, who is our grantee. And Wanmei, who is from a tribal community, him along with his other friends, all from tribal communities, actually restoring the forest. In the slide on the left, the small photograph, that green thing is actually a tree they have just planted. And on the right, they are digging the furrows in which they plant the vegetation. So empowering conservationists from different communities is also a very important way forward for us working on issues of gender, on issues of tribal people. So I'm just going to summarize over here. How does one go about making conservation plans which are inclusive? One has to make the effort to reach out to every kind of governance system that exists formally or informally in that area. So for example, that could be Gram Sabhas, it could be focus groups of women, it could biodiversity management committees in Kirakasal. We are working, the grantees working with the biodiversity management committee. It could be village councils, it could be unions of fishermen, mangrove fishermen, it could be unions of even farmers, any kind of union that exists. And sometimes these groups don't already exist. And sometimes when we are scoping out the area and doing focus group meeting or doing one-on-one meetings, informal groups can form. It could be an informal youth group, it could be an informal women's group, and it's very important to keep that conversation going. It is very important to make sure that these voices are at the forefront of the conservation planning and not at the tail end. Thank you so much. I'll stop here. Questions? Should I stop sharing? Yes.
Thank you so much, Neha. It is always disheartening to see the current scale of biodiversity loss, but encouraging to see all the on-ground work done by organizations and communities. So we will look at a few questions. I can see some in the Q&A section. So, Hilal Ahmed has asked, what can be done to make marginalized people come forward for conservation of biodiversity, particularly women?
Okay, so one way to go about this is to consider if you're doing conservation in one particular area. So it could be a site, maybe it's a village. Let's call that village Rampur. In Rampur village, you have maybe 5 different communities that live there. There could be 5 communities depending on maybe their surnames, maybe it's their religion. Usually, sometimes the community distinction is quite clear. But for the sake of this answer, let's just say that there are communities that are mainstream who have had the kind of fruits of development or success, and maybe communities that are not mainstream. And I think it is incumbent upon us. We have to make sure, as a matter of principle, that we reach out to the marginalized group, because also the marginalized group is usually living in the fringes and might also be facing other issues such as human wildlife conflict and any kind of crop depredation, crops getting eaten by nilgai, etc., or any other kind of pollution or garbage, not garbage not being picked up, etc. So how do we do this? We do this in the way that I described. One has to go to the community, one has to go to different communities within that same area and make a smaller group. Maybe identify people who are the natural leaders of that group who can represent more people. So maybe I cannot have a meeting with 100 people every time. So either I identify who are the leaders within those 100 people. So I can talk to those people, the leaders, to reach out to the larger group. Or maybe I can pick that maybe I want somebody who is between the age of 20 to 30. Maybe I want somebody who's a teenager. Maybe I want somebody who's a little older, maybe someone in his 50s to 60s. So there are these entire systems of stratification and choosing that we can use. But the most intuitive would just be you have to go there. You have to make the effort of talking to those people who are not talking to you initially. And when it comes to women, you could have women from a mainstream community who are not willing to talk to you. Maybe their community is mainstreamed, but the women themselves are hesitating. It happens all the time in my projects that the women are not talking. So one has to spend that much more time there to ensure that one reaches out to women in the same way, which is to win the confidence, go there again and again and again. And I just want to say we cannot make our conservation plan without doing all of this. So it's not that I have a conservation plan and I'm going there. It is I am going there, doing all this work, and then coming up with a conservation plan in consensus with everybody else.
Okay, I think that also answered a few of the other questions
Yeah.
in the chat box.
Yeah.
So this answers, how do you ensure local community involvement in planning and decision making? We have a question specific to youth. So how can youth clubs or school eco groups make sure everyone feels safe and included regardless of gender or identity?
Youth groups have done a fabulous job as far as this topic is concerned. So that group I showed you from Nagaland is actually a youth group. The ones that were planting the trees, One May Cognacs project, even the Kirakasal, the wolf conservation thing I was showing you from Maharashtra, is actually led by a youth group. So I think there's so much power in youth groups because youth groups are at the cusp of not being too set in their ways. They're not like some of the adults that you might meet who are not interested in change. And of course, they're also old enough to actually do things themselves. So they're not children, but they're not also adults who will never change. So youth groups are extremely important for any conservation project. And every time we go anywhere, we try to meet youth groups or we try to see if they can form a youth group. And as far as students who are on this call are concerned, I think every time the issue will be different. So there's no like one solution I can give. But mobilizing youth groups, which is mobilizing people who are like you or your age or your interest, is always so powerful. Youth groups have a completely different power within their communities. It's possible that their parents are going to listen to the youth groups. it's possible that younger people who look up to those youth groups are going to listen. It's also possible that the youth groups will find solutions that nobody else can find because they've also been living there for a long time. So I just want to say the next time a youth group meets, they can talk about planting trees and picking up waste and all of those things, but also they should look at the composition of their own group and see, is it diverse? Are the introverts there? Are there enough women? Uh, are there enough ways to make sure that if women are not feeling safe, somebody can drop them home or accompany them? And I'm also a bird watcher, and I do this all the time, in which we go in small groups wherever we go anywhere. We go to remote places, and there's so much power in that community. There's so much power in finding a group of friends when we can do things together. So I would urge all the youth groups to ensure that the quietest person, the nerdiest person, the person who feels left out, or the person who cannot come because she's not feeling safe, should be encouraged to come. And it'll mean doing a little bit more work, like maybe you have to walk a little bit longer to drop that person home, but it's always worth it. And I think it's also a philosophy for life. When you're doing anything, even in the office or even in your college, I think it's wonderful to reach out to those who are not, able to come, and to make that effort to make sure that they come. And as far as safety for other genders are concerned, it's a complex topic. It's not something I can cover in 5 minutes, but I would just urge everybody to see who is not in the room and see how we can make that person part of that room. Yeah.
Okay. Very well said. We have Dipi Deshmukh, who wants a few, I guess, practical uh, instructions on how we could involve school students in conservation of flora or fauna in any endemic area. How do we initiate it? Is
Okay.
their question.
Okay, so let's consider there's a school in Delhi or Jaipur or say a city. I would urge that school to adopt a wetland or adopt a natural feature that is near them. It could even be adopting a grove of trees to start with. So, for example, now that there's climate change, we have all these storms. I'm speaking to you from Delhi, and we've had a lot of monsoonal rain already, even though traditionally the monsoon starts from today, which is around 18th of July, 17th of July is when the monsoon starts. But it's already rained a lot in Delhi. So in June, it kept raining, a lot of trees fell. So I would say start small, adopt something that's near you, that's easily accessible. For those people who have concerns of how will I get back home, it's always easier if it's something near you. So you could adopt a grove of native trees, you could adopt a local wetland, a colony wetland, you could adopt even a meadow that is near your house and see what is the species composition. Go there and make bird lists. Get to know that area really well. This is something I have done in my life, in which I have a local patch and I go with my friends, and we've literally been monitoring that place for years. We see the same birds, but it's so much fun because we feel we know that place better than any other place in Delhi. And when issues come up of development or destruction, which they always do, if you know that place well, you're able to advocate for it. And I'm also going to say over here, it's not always possible to save the places we love. But I think we fail only if we stop trying. So I will urge everybody to find a tree or to find a wetland or to find any spot. It could even be a spot in your campus. It could be a spot in your school. Maybe it's just a 6 meter by 6 meter green patch in your campus, and maybe it's run over by some foreign plants, which are not great. Maybe we can start with that 6 meter by 6 meter and plant native vegetation. Now, if you plant native vegetation, you get more birds and bees and wasps and flies. Flies are also very important for the ecosystem. Not all flies are parasitic and disease spreading. A lot of flies nectar in the way that bees do. So we need all of this. Maybe it's a tiny pond in your local campus. And that tiny pond, if it has the right vegetation, is going to get dragonflies, which are going to eat mosquitoes. So start with a small patch. It could be even 2 trees, and that will teach you, the more you monitor it, the more you try to save it, it will teach you how to do it for larger areas. So don't start with a huge place, start small and keep going, keep at it. Yeah.
Thank you, Neha. We'll take one last question. So we have Kashvi asking, how do we connect with government regarding such actions?
So the best way to connect with the government is to have some data ready. So as I'm saying, making lists of, say, biodiversity. It could be how many birds, how many moths, how many butterflies. And the WWF team is always doing these kind of outreach events. My colleagues in the Environment Education Division of WWF are always doing trails and giving resources as to how this can be done, the kind of apps that one can use to put in all the observations. So it's become quite simple now. And so do not go to the government without data in your hand, because they're not likely to listen to you. So you want to go and you want to speak to people if you're able to convince them. You don't want to go and not get your aim. You want to go and achieve what you've set out to do. So you have to start by collecting the data first, and then have a very clear ask from the government. So understand why you want to go to the government. It could be your local municipal officer. It could even be maybe your resident welfare association, which is not the government, but kind of sometimes acts like the government. They also have important decisions. They make important decisions, such as what vegetation you have in the house area, the campus that you live in, right? It could even be your school's, local horticulture board, or whoever's making the decisions for flora and fauna in your school. So go with the data and go with the clear ask. Do not go without this, because if you go without this, maybe you'll just have tea and come back and nothing will come out of it. Be prepared. That's true for anything in life. You have to be prepared. So collect your data, and Neha and her team at WWF can give advice as to how this can be done. Get your data, get it for as long as possible, have a clear ask, and then go and meet the government. They would be happy to meet you, but definitely do not go unprepared. It's always better to prepare to get the aim that you're looking for.
Thank you so much, Neha. Yes, data and documentation is very important, and our next session will actually take you through that. Thank you once again, Neha.
Thanks.
I
Thank
think,
you for having me.
yes. So before we get into our next session, we have a small energizer prepared for you. It's a little game. So you will have to spot the hidden creature. So listen closely. There will be a habitat or a photograph of a landscape that will be shown on the screen. The landscape will then be divided into sections. So you have to look very carefully at your screen and try to locate where the creature is hidden. And you will have to write into the chat box the section in which you see the creature as well as the creature's name. So, for example, if your screen is divided into 1, 2, 3 sections and you see a tiger in 3, you will write 3 and tiger. Okay, so let's start with the first picture. Can we have the photograph on screen? Okay, so look very closely at the habitat. Can we have the screen divided? Next slide, please. Okay, so you see 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you tell me where do you see? I can see Mira saying pond, heron, hawk. Okay, so okay, everybody's saying 3. Y'all can see a heron, some can see a quail. All right, okay. So you're right, the bird in quest, there is a bird in section 3. Here it is on screen. Can we have the next slide? Yes. So that is called a thick knee. So this particular bird is called a thick knee, and you can see how very well camouflaged it is with its surroundings. So you have understood how to play the game. Let's quickly go into the next landscape. Okay, so let's have the sections. Next slide. What do you see in this picture? Can we have the next slide, please? Yes, so 3 sections. Okay. Yes. Most of you have got it right. It is a seahorse and it is in section 2. Very good. You all are experts at this. Next slide, please. Okay, I think this is a little hard. Can we have the screen divided into sections? So 2 sections. Okay, one, yes. Somebody can see a snake. I hope there's no snake because you all are right, there is a frog. So you can see here, there is a frog. Okay, somebody can see caterpillars and stick insects, lots of things. But yes, there is a frog right here. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this should be an easy one. Can we have the sections? Next slide. Okay, so what do you see on screen? In 2, but what do you see? Penguin. Polar bear. No, there's a pigeon. Yes. So Kanab got that right. There is a pigeon or a dove, some bird species uh, in section 2. Now, can we have the last picture? Okay, this is a little difficult. Can we have the sections? Okay, so 3 sections. Look very closely. Okay. Somebody has seen a snake, a tiger cat, a spider, a mouse. My goodness, so many things. Okay, so I see somebody has said in section 2 there's a snow leopard. So let's go ahead and show. That's right. So there's a snow leopard. Look very carefully into this, in this circle here. Here's the face of the snow leopard. Okay, very well done. I hope you all enjoyed that little bit of hide and seek with creatures great and small. It's now time for our next session. Can we please have the next slide? Yes. So our next session is on reporting and documenting conservation action, which is completely and in line with what Neha Sinha from our previous session said about data collection, very important. This session will be conducted by my colleague and friend, Ms. Priyanka Singh, Senior Manager, Environment Education, WWF India. Priyanka wears many hats and is especially knowledgeable in the very essential job of recording, analyzing, and presenting conservation data to various stakeholders. She will now give you a masterclass in the same. So over to you, Priyanka.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Can you hear me all?
Yes, Priyanka.
Okay. So it has been a really nice session since the last 3 days that we have been seeing over here. I hope it's a great learning opportunity for everyone who is present here. And it will help you in your MCOP journey when you're doing action planning and taking up projects in your local areas. So with the context that has been set with in terms of, briefing you about different, targets, briefing about different elements of environment conservation. Now we are at the right time to talk about reporting and documentation for the conservation action. So now we'll start the presentation, but it's basically a participation from all. So I'll request you all to use your chat box to, answer these small questions. Just a second, I'm not able to move my slide. Okay, so can you tell me So can you tell me why do we want to do documentation and reporting? Please use your chat box. Okay, it serves as an evidence. Very nice. Too many answers popping up on my screen. Yeah, for keeping records, to know our progress, to store necessary information, to analyze. Yeah, very good example of monitoring bird population. Just what recently Neha Sinha told about it. Tracking changes in biodiversity. Yeah, spread awareness, understand the situation. Yeah, I think we are good to go now. I think there's a lot of information that we have covered.
Just give us a moment. We're just trying to reconnect with Priyanka. Priyanka, you're on mute.
Hello, can you hear me
Yes.
on? Okay,
Yes.
sorry, there was a small glitch at my end, so it just stopped working. Okay, so now with the understanding as you all have as to what do you mean by documentation and reporting, can you tell me uh, can you tell me what are the different ways of documentation and reporting that is being used in your school? Please use your chat box to answer it. Yeah, magazines in your school. Very nice. Computer records, report cards, registers.
Just give us a
Caroline, till the
moment.
time we are
Yes.
resolving the issue, can you please take over?
Sure. Okay, I think we have the screen back. Okay. So I am reading your answers in the chat box. Different ways of documenting and reporting in schools. That's right. Essays, biodiversity journals, textbooks. Yes, textbooks is a good way of learning in terms of curriculum, but in terms of you as students or as educators, teachers, documentation, perhaps essays, school magazines, local newspapers work better. All right. What about if you would want to reach more bigger audiences, local audiences? How, just giving you some food for thought. How about local, yes, podcasts is right. Radio, yes, very good. Social media, yes, that's the mainstream way of communication right now. Okay. When it comes to, okay, we have Priyanka back. Sustainability fairs. What are sustainability fairs?
Caroline,
Like
can you hear me?
exhibition? Yes, Priyanka, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm technically glitch at my end again.
No problem.
Okay. So now next we'll go to the next slide. I'll give you some general, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you see the image that has been presented on your slide? This, cartoon basically represents what are we planning, what do we intend to do when we say about documentation and reporting. So there are different things when we say, when we do any kind of documentation and reporting, what includes is basically observation. Then what did we find while observing it? What did we conclude when we are, looking at certain things? After everything has been done, what are we recommending? And what should we respond? And what do we plan to do now? Basically, a corrective action that we are talking about. So basically, if I give an example of this, so since you are in a school, I'll take a school example and I'll share it with you. So when you're in a school, for example, in a government school, you observe that there are children who are not washing their hands, okay, before the meals that is happening. So that's the observation part of it. But what is your finding? When we talk about finding, we say that, 40% of the students are not washing hands regularly before having their meals. So this is what we understand when we say, what did we find? What are we concluding when we are having these observations? We are concluding that there is a gap in, hygiene awareness. So what should be the overall recommendation if you see that this is the situation there in your school? So the overall, awareness should be related to basically in terms of creating awareness. Maybe there is not enough awareness at the school that children are not, washing their hands before having the meal. So that is there. Now, when we talk about how should we respond, then we are talking about, it could be response, could be in terms of whatever your observation is and recommendation is on that basis. You need to have your response mechanism. That could be in terms of, organizing weekly hygiene workshops and what do we need to plan now? This basically planning relates to the overall plan when you think what is the problem, what is the solution that you are aiming, and in that sense, you are basically trying to plan all the activities in between so that for the period of around 3 months to build the capacity of teachers, build the capacity, create awareness among students, and monitor the whole thing to understand everything. So this is what we talk about when we talk about documentation and reporting in a gist. So this is a slide. Now going on to the next slide, there are certain common quotes and popular saying that we use in documentation and reporting. So the first one is it's generally said, if it's not documented, it did not happen, you know. So if you just say it, okay, we did this kind of restoration, we did a restoration of a wetland, but if it has not been documented, nobody would believe you. So with data, facts, and everything, it should be documented. Reports are like bridges, they connect what you do with what do you want to do next. So when you create reports and documents, it not only helps you understand what you have done, it also gives you the way forward as to what you need to do next. Good work is important, but documentation keeps it alive. The same as we have started in the very beginning. If it is not documented, it did not happen. Now the last, what gets measured gets managed. So, the father of management very clearly said that whatever we are doing, every action needs to be measured, especially in the development sector. If you're doing something, you're taking up projects, you need to measure it. Unless and until you measure it, you won't be able to understand what kind of impact it is creating. Also, it helps you manage your projects really better. So these are some of the populist sayings that is used in the documentation, and it talks and highlights about the importance of documentation and reporting. Now, I'm giving you a very because you have already told me about why do we do documentation and reporting, what are the different sources that are being used in the schools for reporting and documentation. I'll give you a general overview, a general understanding of why we are doing why documentation and reporting is important. So basically, it gives you a structured and an organized information. We can have information, we can keep information in 10 pages. Why do you have copies of different subjects? It's basically to organize your information in a structured manner so that when you go back to it, you can just see as to what notes you have created and what are the important points that you learned during the class, and you can revise it accordingly. So it basically gives you a structured and an organized information. Then it also helps you showcase change as to what has happened. What was the initial stage that you started with when you were doing a program, and now where it has reached with the steps that you have taken. So it basically helps you also highlight your achievements. It also talks about the consistency as to how consistent you were while you were doing your project. It also gives you accountability and credibility in terms of that you have been consistent in your work. You have been doing work at different intervals. So it gives you accountability and credibility. Also, it helps you in decision making. When you document and when you report something, it helps you basically, document the mistakes that you have done. It also helps you document the challenges that you faced, and it helps you to take further decisions in terms of rectifying those mistakes or, mitigating those challenges. Now, going on, what to report and document that we are expecting for the MCOP. Basically, we are looking at the planned activities, planned actions, which we have already spoken in the last session. It was spoken by Sulagna and Neha on the SMART action plan. Then we are looking at the schedule of activities, basically the timeline as to what are the activities, when are you doing which activities, and what is the expected outcome or the output that you are aiming to achieve within the time frame of the activities, of the actions that you will be taking. And during the process, what are the challenges and lessons learned, and it should be supported by visuals, photos, videos, and charts. It's also good to get, stories from the fields, quotes, testimonials, and feedback from the communities and, stakeholders who can talk about the work that has happened. Also, what are the different ways of reporting? You already know, but I'm just giving you a brief gist of it. It talks about reports, could be, progress report, impact report when we are talking about in terms of MCOP. It could be Excels in terms of, gathering data for the initial level, also for the work that you're doing to gather data of what you have already done and how the improvement has happened. So these Excels will help you progress to track your progress. Also these photographs and videos, you know, photographs and videos, case studies and testimonials will help you, you know, make your report better. Now, when you know, when we are already talking about it, we should talk about also when, because you know, as a part of MCOP, when we are talking about documentation and reporting, now you people must be starting to identify a local environmental issue, or you must be started to thinking as to what is the environmental issue that you can take up, which is aligned to the targets that have been put up in the MCOP. So while doing it, it's very important to understand the whole project cycle, because you'll be basically be taking up a project in your area and try to implement it. So for this, you need to understand the project cycle. I'll give you a very basic diagram on you know, project cycle. So basically, this is a very basic image that showcases as to what a project cycle is. You do an initial assessment of the area of the problem that you're thinking that you are supposed to take. You do the initial assessment and you think that you can, this is the problem, and now you start planning. Before that, you set your goals that, okay, this is the problem, and now we want to reach to this position. So you start planning, you know, planning your action plan, planning as to how you'll be implementing the project. You do everything and then you evaluate the whole thing in order to understand as to where you have reached. You know, if you were supposed to reach, you know, 80% of it, where have you reached? Did you do only 30% of it, 50% of it? So it gives you basically an overall idea of what you have done, what you have and where you have reached. So this is a simple project cycle. I'll also showcase a, you know, project cycle that is being used here at a WWF. Don't get worried because it looks more complicated in nature, but if you see the basics of it, it revolves around the same basics of the initial, figure that you see in this presentation. So everything, the basic setup is same. It's just about a bit of more technicalities that have been added here. Okay, now moving on to a very important topic. So when we talk about, because, you know, as I'm already saying that you'll be going back, you know, you'll be taking actions in the field. So for that, you need to document things in a proper manner. So when you are trying to identify a problem, you're creating a project, you'll be sending action plans. For that, I think you need to understand theory of change, which is a very important concept when we talk about, you know, when we talk about basically, when we talk about the project cycle and the project management. So when we talk about theory of change, what is theory of change? So I'll tell you in a very simple way. You basically identify a problem when I say the current state of it. So for example, you know, when you are staying somewhere, and for example, you are in Jharkhand and you are staying there, and you see that the situation is that the wetland there, it's getting polluted. So the current state basically is to define the problem that you have. Always when you're doing a theory of change, you should always start with the problem that you have. So when you are able to identify the problem and define the problem that you have, then you should think about the desired state that you want to achieve. Desired state is nothing but the goal that you want to achieve. So, you know, when you're talking about the problem statement and the desired goal, what are the actions that you take in between to reach the desired state? That is called as, you know, the whole process is called as theory of change. So if in a simple language, if I have to tell you, it is nothing but a sequence of events, or a chain of events that has that is expected to lead a desired outcome or the desired state that you want. So this is what a theory of change is. This is a very basic theory of change that I've shown here. I'll give you a more theory of change that is used here, but I think this theory of change can be used by you in your plans, which is very easy to understand, and it will also help you structure your thoughts, help you plan better for the work that you're doing. So I think this is more appropriate, but I'll show you a theory of change, which is actually being used when we design the project. So it has some added, layers to it in terms of, what are the outputs, what will be the medium term outputs, what will be the longer term goals in terms of the impact that we are seeing here. Now, when we are talking about theory of change, I'll give you a very simple example when we are talking of theory of change. I'll give you so, for example, I've gone to a government school and I see a problem. Now, what is the problem that I'm seeing here? The problem is that there is a lack of computer programming skills in government middle schools, which limits the students' digital skill and future readiness in a tech-driven world. Okay, so there's a lack of computer programming skill that I see there as a problem statement. So this is my problem statement that I'm seeing when I have visited a government school. Now I want to work for this. So what will I do first? I want to design a project. So I have identified the problem. I have written down the current state of it. After it, I need to determine my goal as to where do I want to reach. If I need to work here, take up a project here with the government schools, what is the aim that I'm having? So basically the desired state that I want to achieve is basically to enable at least 80% of the government school students in class 6 to 8 to acquire basic programming skills through weekly sessions over one academic year, improving their digital literacy and making them future ready. So this is the goal that I'm planning that I'll be achieving through my journey when I take up a project in a school, in a government school to improve the literacy. Now, what are the steps that will help me achieve help me move from my current state to the desired state? So I think I'll have to take these many steps, in terms of, first of all, I'll have to design an age appropriate, engaging curriculum for the students. I'll have to also build the capacity of the teachers who will be engaging with the students in terms of developing their capacities and, and who will be delivering the content basically. And besides this, also I'll need to have a computer lab in that school. Or if there's a computer lab, I'll need to have, computers that are up to date, upgraded. Also, the number of computers should be ample in terms of servicing the students there. Besides that, I'll have to conduct, weekly coding classes for them. Then we'll have to monitor and assess their learning. It's not only about doing things, but also assessing in between as to where the students have reached in terms of their learning. This will help me, plan again, or in terms of improving my planning in between if there is a glitch in between, to improve my planning and to move forward with it. Also, after that, maybe I'll ask the students, I'll give them a theme out to create a theme-based projects and organize a fest and showcase it. So these actions will help me enable to reach the desired state that I'm looking at, in terms of reaching out there. So when you are also designing, your theory of change, and when you'll be making your smart action plan, I'll urge you to make a theory of change for your projects. First of all, identify the issue. I know you must have identified the local issue in your area, but try to define it more properly. If you have some data which shows the gravity of the situation, which also gives a very good which also improves the problem statement, so that helps you uh, document it properly. Also, then decide your goal. I'm just reiterating myself, and then decide your actions. Don't decide your actions first of all to reach the goal. You'll have to decide the goal. Unless and until you decide the goal, that goal will itself decide what are the actions that you need to take. So it's very important to decide the goal first. Okay, now moving on to a more theory of change that is looked after. It's it's basically it's the same thing with some layers added to it, as I already told you in my initial slide. If you see, there's a root cause and a goal which is already there. Then it talks about basically inputs that are required. When you're designing the activities, what are the inputs required? For example, in my previous slide, when I showed you the action steps, the input that was required in terms of setting up a computer lab there. So that is the inputs that we are talking up, or or also teachers would be one of the inputs that would be required there. With the inputs and the activities you will be doing, the outputs would be there. The outputs are basically immediate and tangible results that we are looking at, in terms of, it could be basically, if you see my previous example, then in terms, it could be number of training sessions that I've held, or the curriculum developed could be one of the outputs. Computer installed could be the outputs. These are the immediate outputs that we are looking at. Then comes the outcomes. When we are talking about outcomes, it's basically short or medium term impacts or effects that we call. What has changed over the period? So when we talk about what has changed over the period, it talks about students learn basic programming, teachers have improved their capacity and have started teaching coding. So these are some of the initial short-term and medium-term outcomes that we are talking about. Then we talk about impact. Impact is nothing but a very long-term, effect of a program and a project. So for in this case, we can say that, students are better prepared for future careers, which are, tech related. So this helps them. So this is basically a overall theory of change. So my idea behind sharing this picture of a theory of change was to give you an overall idea as to how a theory of change looks like in exactly. So this is one of the ways we create our theory of change when we design our projects here at our organization level. Also, after this, there's a small activity that has been designed for you. So I'll request everyone to, start using your chat box and, just define a problem, a 1 or a 2-liner problem that you have identified for your state in your nearby your school or wherever. Write the problem statement. First, write the problem statement, write the desired goal, and then you write the action steps and put it in the chat box. Discuss it with your friends if you're sitting in a classroom, and then you can add it here. So we'll have a 5 minutes timer I have added over here. So it will basically help you do the activity. Last 1 minute. Okay, thank you for your comments in the comment section. So basically, I've gone through it, through some of it. Some of you, it looks fine in terms of, what is the current state? For example, if I take from VKVSM, it says current state is basically flood risk in our city. And what is the desired state that you are looking at is reduced flood risk in your city, in our city, so that citizens, animals, and plant, etc., are not affected. And what are you looking at the key actions? It's basically when you're writing at the key actions, you're writing build proper drainage, cover open drains, clean them, make them nature-based plan engaging stakeholders, create awareness. Okay, so I think this is good, but the only thing is when you're creating your desired state, this is good for now because we have very limited time and you have done some fantastic job while writing it. But when you're writing your goal, make it a smart goal when you're writing your goal so that it helps you plan your actions better. And it also helps you to know the time frame within which you are working. It helps you keep that in mind. So yeah, so after this, we'll move on to our next slide. Okay, so coming on to the SMART action plan, I'm just, making it very quick because it has been already been explained in the last session. So SMART action plan, as you already know, you have to make your goals very specific and clear. It should be measurable and it should be something which you can attain. It should not be something which is not attainable, which any random thing you cannot just write, which cannot be attained. Also, it should be relevant. It should be relevant in current time, whatever your action plan is, whatever your goal that you're making. And most importantly, you need to set clear deadlines and time frame for the action plan. That makes your action plan, a good action plan. So when you're talking about, if I take the example of, the previous example of students in government schools where there is a low, low skills among the student in terms of coding or computer skills. So if I talk about specific, when I'm talking about specific, it could be, specific is something like teaching coding to class 6 to 8 using whatever the language, computer language is, whether it could be C++, Java, or anything. When we are talking measurable, we should be talking when we are writing our goal, it says 80% of the student will complete and present a coding project. So it helps you measure your action plan better. When you are talking about achievable, it should be achievable through, weekly classes that are being conducted by the teachers. And when you are talking relevant, it's relevant because it's building a digital skill for the 21st century. So it's relevant. The project is relevant. Plus, when you're talking about time-based, you're talking about a year's time wherein they are doing it. So these are some of the this is one of the examples of the action plan that we have taken. Now, when you're setting up your smart action plan, please please note that you have to set a SMART goal, as I already told you, and you have to create a list of actions, uh, set a timeline, basically set a timeline of what task you'll be, completing when, and you need to designate resources for it. And also, very most importantly, you need to monitor your progress of how you are doing in your project. After this, I'll share a template. This has been already been shared by Avni in the group with everyone, I believe. And I think a lot of you have shared the smart action plan. After this session, Neha and others would be reviewing some of the action plans, some 4, 5 action plans in the session after this. So I'm just moving across. Also, when you're planning as a part of you should always create a Gantt chart of activities that you're doing. So this is a sample of Gantt chart of activities that we are doing. If you look at the example, I have just, because my screen is limited, so I took the Gantt chart till only December. It will depend on the timing of the project. If your project is only till October or November, you'll have to create a Gantt chart till that month. It is nothing. It just tells you, this chart tells you what are the activities, what activities are overlapping in which month. It basically helps you plan your work better and to manage your work better. So if you see, designing, if I take the similar example that I had taken in the very beginning, it's like designing an engaging age-appropriate curriculum. I'll be doing it in August. Then I need to see, okay, in September, I have to build the computer lab itself. I have to build the capacity of the teachers, and from September and October, I also need to start conducting weekly hands-on classes. So I need to complete my previous task on time, so that I'm able to start my next activity timely. So this helps you plan your work better. So I think you should always create a Gantt chart. It helps you also know what are the different kind of activities that are coming up for the month. Now, when you have completed the action plan, when you'll be doing when you have completed everything on the ground, we are looking for a progress report. So we'll be sharing a structure of the report. I'm just giving you a very brief of the structure. So we are looking at, we are looking at a cover page. You need to give us a table of contents. A lot of time we get reports which use a lot of acronyms in between, but there are no, abbreviations are written everywhere, but there's no full form that has been written. So I think there should be a list dedicated to it, a page dedicated to it, a summary of what actions, or what the overall project is, what the overall project looks like. It gives you a brief. Half pager or a 1-pager is good. Half pager is also very good, plus target selection and rationale. So this will cover of everything I have spoken in the very beginning. What is the issue or the problem that you have identified? What is the relevance? What is the gravity of the problem? And how is it aligning with the targets that have been given to you? Besides that, which is the area? So you need to talk also about the area where you are implementing the project, because it helps us understand as to how relevant the work is in that area. Then you can write your smart action plan with the format that has been given to you. Also, then you can give us a next page with the activities. It can be a small description of the activities that you have done with, adding some images to it, and then an outcome and an impact in terms of what are the immediate results that were observed there. You can also add some pre and a post pictures if you're doing something like a plantation activity in your school campus, where you see that the tree cover was very less. So a pre picture of minimal trees there or no trees, and then you planting the native trees. These could be a pre and a post pictures that could help us understand the work that you have done there. Also, while you're documenting the challenges and learning is very important. It helps you maybe further you want to continue the project or you want to take up new projects, or while working also, it helps you understand the issues that you have faced, the measures that you need to take, to mitigate the challenges, and also gives you a lot of learning. And then, as usual, you can have conclusions and suggestions and what are you thinking, recommendations to, the way forward for it, basically. And annexures could include images, tables, data, testimonials, case studies, anything that you want to add here. There's certain things that need to be added when you're writing things to note. Basically, use a very simple language and use past tense while reporting activities. Use, secondary data. Whenever you use secondary data, mention the source and the facts, source there. Use photographs while you're using photographs from the secondary source, give the credits. And also use, when you're using your own pictures, use a high resolution pictures which can be used later. And also add a caption to the image. And then annexure and review the basically the document before you submit it. Now, frequency of reporting, I think Avni has already shared with you. So I'm just moving forward with this. So when we are talking about, documentation reporting, I just want to show you the last year activities, that some of the activities that were taken by these students last year, the projects that they had taken. So this is how. Okay. So if you see, these are some of the photographs from Tamil Nadu. And you see these students were working on lantana in removing the species, invasive species lantana there. And they made, honam sticks, basically with this to create revenue for the communities there. Meghalaya, if you see again, it talks about the non-timber forest products that they identified in their state, and also try to understand the supply chain. And they collaborated with the Biodiversity Board in terms of creating awareness and educating students. And if you see, it's basically from Kerala, wherein the students have identified wetlands and they have removed wastes and weed from the area to restore the wetlands. So basically, the purpose of showing these images to you were key. Since they had documented their projects well, we were able to showcase their, impacts in the way it has been shown here on social media pages or other places. So this basically talks about the importance of documentation while we are doing it. This uh, uh, this leads to the end of my session. Thank you, everyone, and hope you enjoyed and had a nice session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Priyanka. So we will have a break now for 5 minutes. It's 11:36. So by 11:40, 41, I request everybody to be back. All right, I hope everyone is back. We are ready to commence. So welcome back, everyone. It is time for the next item on the agenda. This morning, in fact, the past few days of MCOP 6 have been full of learning and education, and you have been a good and attentive audience. Now it's time for us to hear from you. You were set 10 targets and we will now have 5 teams present their action plans formulated towards achieving them. And to give you guidance and feedback, we have Ms. Neha Sinha, Head of Policy and Communications, Ms. Neha Raghav, Director, Environment Education, and Ms. Avni Gupta, Senior Program Officer, Content and Training from WWF-India. So let us have the teams, and Avni, you can take this forward.
So much, Caroline. We welcome you all to the live feedback session. Thank you so much. We received a lot of action plans, and it was difficult for us to shortlist only 5. But we hope these feedback that we give today, it helps all the students who are going to be working on the action planning. So what we'll do is we'll present the first school, and the school will have 2 to 3 minutes to present their action plan, to explain their action plan, and then we will give a feedback. We have with us Neha Sinha and Neha Raghav to provide you with the feedback. So the first school that we have is Kamla Nehru Public School from Punjab. I'll just share my screen, present their action plan, and I request the school to kindly raise their hand so that we can unmute you. So here's the action plan.
Good morning, ma'am. Am I audible?
Your voice is echoing.
Ma'am, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
A very warm and pleasant morning to Team Panda and our fellow mates from across the India. Sat Shri Akal from Punjab. We at Kamla Nehru Public School are celebrating 2025 as the year of gratitude. We are very grateful to you for selecting our action plan and giving a live feedback. As a part of MCOP 6 initiative, Kamla Nehru Public School has undertaken a dynamic and community-driven project aimed at assessing and improving urban soil health in Fagwara. Recognize soil as the bedrock of the food security, climate resilience, and biodiversity. We chose the target assess soil health in your city and strategize a plan to improve it. We identified urbanization, pollution, and unsustainable land practices as critical threats to soil, biodiversity, and functionality. The project outlines a clear and measurable roadmap to conduct soil health assessments across 10 local sites, organize 3 community workshops on composting and organic farming, achieve a 20% improvement in soil organic content within 6 months. The key actions we would be using are soil samplings using AI tools like Plantix, composting initiatives with support from farmers, NGOs, and municipal bodies, lab testing and data visualizations, monitoring soil improvement post intervention. Coming to the stakeholders engagement, the plan actively involves farmers, gardeners, vendors, and a real youth, creating a sustainable collaboration between the school, the community, and the nature. Further, we move to the resource and innovation. The students employ AI tools, low cost technologies, and school labs for testing, composting, and awareness campaigns, transforming education into a real world impact. Moving on to the challenges and the opportunities. This project capitalizes on the student leadership, municipal participations, and the digital tools while navigating challenges like meeting the deadlines, public engagements, and environmental factors. The action plan reflects the school commitment to the sustainable urban ecosystem, demonstrating how youth-led innovation and the grassroots actions can contribute meaningfully to the global environmental goals. We thank Team Panda our school mentors, and community partners for their support and encouragement. Their guidance enabled us to take these meaningful steps towards soil health and sustainability. We are grateful for the opportunity to contribute to a global cause through a local action. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you so much for presenting the action plan and explaining everything in detail. We request the experts, Neha Sinha and Ms. Neha Raghav, to kindly provide the feedback.
Okay, so thank you so much. I'm sure after after the previous session, you all must be wanting to rush back to your action plans and fix some of the things that you may not have thought about earlier. So, and these action plans were submitted yesterday. So, so that's absolutely okay if you now feel that some of the things have not gone right. So first of all, I compliment you guys for putting together such an exhaustive action plan. You have used the template. That's a very good thing because it's important to follow the template for us to be able to easily evaluate the action plans. The other thing, key point that I have noted here is you haven't defined the area where you will be carrying out these activities. It's very important that you define where you are going to implement your action plan, whether it is your school premises or a local RWA, or you're going to work with neighboring communities. So that's something perhaps you have to think it through, because that is going to determine what kind of support you need. In case you decide on working with a particular RWA, you may have to reach out to them. Within the school campus, it will involve different stakeholders. So that is one point. The other point that I'd like to make over here is you have listed down quite a few challenges. The whole idea of identifying the challenges is that you can preempt the issues, and you are able to think of ways in which you can mitigate those challenges. And the idea of you identifying these opportunities is that you leverage those opportunities to achieve the goals of the project. So that's broadly what my feedback is. One more key point, you said you will be using AI tools. I must ask you to be cautious when you are using AI tools. We cannot rely on all the information. I would rather suggest that you go for credible website and scientific journals to pick up information, and that is going to make sure that that your information is authentic and and your solutions are more scientific. So that's all from my side. I would now request Neha to provide her input.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I went through your plan, and it's quite exciting because you actually have a lot of stakeholders that you want to work with. You have the farmers, the horticulturalists, the RWA, your school, and you want to create test how compost will work. So this is a soil plan. I was just curious to know how you plan on training yourselves. I know you're using these apps to analyze the soil, but how are you planning on training yourself? And also, apart from the apps, is there any way you want to scale up? Is there any other kind of testing you want to do? Do you want to take it to a lab, etc., to get really good results? So do tell us about that.
Ma'am, to train us, we will take the help of farmers, that local farmers we have, and we'll take the soil to the lab test, that pH testing we'll do of the soil.
So, your local farmers will train you, and you will do the testing of the soil. But do you do you see this project going into labs as well, laboratories where soil is tested, or are you going to only use these AI and these apps that you have mentioned in your analysis?
Ma'am, no, we surely take the soil to the laboratories to test the pH and to test how fit they are for which crop. And
So your main stakeholder is the farmer, And your main objective is to ensure that the soil is good or the soil is organic for the use for farming. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So you can actually make your project perhaps a little more focused, because right now you're also focusing on compost. I really like that you're focusing on soil improvement after you put the compost. So you can pick maybe a small area, because this is going to be quite difficult to do in a very large area. And since you have a pre-project, post-project kind of component, it's great if you pick a small area and pick, farmers who you can work with well. So you'll have to start with identifying who these farmers are, and then finding the place where, those farmers are active. So I would suggest start small and move on to a larger area. Start with a small pilot, and move on to a larger area. That would be my
Yes,
suggestion.
ma'am, we'll do it in the school premises first only, and then we move to the larger areas.
Okay, sounds good.
Additional feedback that I have is to include any list of species that could be found in that soil, and if there's any improvement in the species that are found. For instance, you can find a lot of invertebrates. You can also see a lot of plants that are growing in those soils. So if you link that the soil to the biodiversity that you can see, I think that will be a great aspect as well.
And by using the AI, we'll see which species are there in the soil and which crop is fit for that soil. And if that soil is not fit for any soil, then we'll take it for the compost.
Right. If we don't have any other points to add to the feedback, we can move to the second school.
Yes, ma'am, no points. Thank you.
Thank you so much for presenting. All the best.
Thank you.
So now we have Rachna School from Gujarat. They've raised hands, so you can unmute yourselves and kindly present your action plan.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are. Could you be a little louder? You're unmuted at the moment. Yes, please.
Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yes, you are.
So good morning, ma'am. I am Arsh, and I have Shalvi Shah from Rachna School. We are representing Rachna School. So in our action plan, we have selected target 10, which is document local and native species in your area and raise awareness about threatened species and their conservation needs. The Ahmedabad, which is in Ahmedabad, which translates to King the Ahmedabad-Mumbai bullet train corridor. It is gradually lacking its green cover. So our school promotes growth of indigenous plant species, which actually inspired us to document local species, plants, insects, and birds. So these native and endangered species are losing their importance in the society. We'll raise awareness regarding them and highlight their ecological value. So the problem is there is limited awareness and documentation of not much known edible plants having nutritional value. Without proper conservation efforts, many native plants face habitat loss and the risk of extinction. Now, Shalvi will explain further.
Moving to the SMART goal setting. Firstly, specific. So we'll identify and document 15 native plant species, 10 local bird species, and 5 insect species within the school premises. Then measurable, we'll grow at least 25 plants involving the stakeholders. It's achievable because we'll involve a team of students guided by teachers and local experts through field visits. and will also involve the school's gardening staff to support the native plant preservation. Relevancy, so satellite studies suggest that Shahibag has the least green cover in Ahmedabad, as mentioned earlier. So we'll help bring back the green heart of Shahibag by supporting local plants and the nutrient-rich forgotten edible plants. And we'll try to complete this within 8 to 10 weeks. Moving to the action plan, the first action that we'll take is that we'll document native edible plants which have medicinal values, and also will cover threatened bird and insect species through field visits to botanical gardens, photography, and referring to authentic. We'll collaborate with the school authorities, the Serenity Library for Botanical Garden, and the Center for Environment Education. We'll also collaborate with the Forest Department for collecting the information, and we'll try to complete this within a span of 10 days, that is 1st 10th August. We'll cover at least 3 species of flora and fauna, and this would lead to increased awareness among the task force. Secondly, we'll gather saplings of these native edible species through expert guidance, and we'll grow them in our school campus, engaging students. We'll also collaborate with the gardening staff of the school and the Serenity Library, and we'll try to complete this before 25th August. We'll plant at least 25 saplings, engage 10 student volunteers, and 15 species will be cultivated. This would increase the greenery and students' understanding of native species values. Third, we'll organize interactive sessions and raise awareness among the school students, and conduct practical sessions so that they can see, touch, feel, smell, and remember the plants. And we'll bring plant samples and conduct quizzes and explain through PPTs to spread awareness about these endangered species. And we'll try to complete this till 15 September by reaching out to 100 students and distributing about 40 plants. Last, we'll visit local nurseries and convince customers to grow these endangered species, and using posters, and will aware using posters and sample plants, and we share the benefits of native edible species and suggest easy to grow options by conveying the significance of these plants in our daily lives by collaborating with the nursery staff. We'll try to complete this before 30th September by reaching out to about 20 customers, and this would increase the customer interest level. And we'll make sure to take photographs of the event, make video clips, prepare records of the plant growth and their distribution, and get student reflections and feedback from customers we engage. Now, Ash will continue the rest.
So for this, the resources required would be sample samples, data sources from library, authentic websites, internet and digital services. Also, we'll collaborate with the Serenity Botanical Garden and collect information regarding these native and endangered species. So the key takeaways from this would be we'll develop an interest about nature, improve our communication skills, that is negotiation and consensus building, persuasion, and learn about traditional recipes. So the challenges for us in this task would be we'll negotiate with the stakeholders that they can bring about change through their actions. We'll reach out to customers, we'll collect saplings, and that the above actions are accomplished on time alongside scholastic routine. So in all, we will maintain qualitative and quantitative approach, ensuring that our goals have a larger impact on the lives of people in raising awareness and help increase the green cover of Shahibag. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I request the experts to kindly proceed.
Okay, first of all, congratulations, Rachna School. I think so, a very well thought plan. But some of the points that I noticed while you were presenting, number one is lack of awareness, the major reason why you think there is loss of biodiversity. I think there is some more thought that needs to go into what are the threats and what is leading to the loss of green cover in the space that you're targeting. I think that calls for a little bit research and survey. So that's something that you must think. The second thing is I am not very clear about the role of customers. And you said you will be collecting feedback. So maybe that needs a little bit of thinking. I did not see you reaching out to experts. I think Center for Environment Education is what you are looking at, to provide you the expert inputs on this whole project. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. We'll reach out to Forest Department and the Serenity Library, which is also a botanical garden.
And actually, we have sessions of Center for Environment Education in our school.
Weekly.
So it's easier to communicate
great.
with them, and they provide us expert advices.
Okay, fine. So yeah, I'm glad that you have some experts who you can reach out to for accurate information. Can we go right to the bottom, Avni? I think your interpretation of opportunities and challenges is not okay. When we say opportunities, which it means what are the things that are existing and you can actually ride your project on it and achieve success. So if people are already interested in Ahmedabad or in Shahi Bagh, if you feel that people are already interested in nature and will always come forward to for any such drive, then that's an opportunity. Then it means that you can reach out to communities, right? The other opportunity could be that the forest department is very pro to work with the school children. That's an opportunity that you can leverage on. Okay, so learning about traditional species, these are not the opportunities for you to achieve success in this project, right? So think about what are the things which can become enablers to implement the project successfully. In challenges, again, you have to think about what could be the limiting agents or factors that could impact the success of the project. So you need to think about those things rather than negotiation. If you feel that stakeholders are very difficult to negotiate with, they have a rigid mind, they don't care about nature, then that is a challenge, right? Then you may have to carry out a few awareness drives to make sure that you are able to help people understand why it is important to plant more native species and spread awareness about invasive species. So I think so these are some of the things that you may have to think about to make this project plan a little more practical and easy to implement. So yeah, that's all from my side. Yeah.
So I love the fact that this project combines food with kind of saving biodiversity, and food is often a very important way to save biodiversity or to create bonds with biodiversity. I just have one sort of concern. One is you have to be sure that what you're selling is edible, it's the right kind of variant. So for example, if you look at tulsi, for example, some people eat it, but there are many kinds of tulsi, and sometimes the variants we eat are not the native ones. And sometimes the native ones might not be as exactly what you're looking for because the taste is very different. So I think there are at least 100 kinds of tulsi, if I'm not wrong. So you have to be very sure that you know what you are planting is edible and it's also native, because that's the entire point of this, right? So I also have one more consideration. So oftentimes local biodiversity also feeds on the same plant. So for example, you might have a curry patta, which is consumed by human beings, but a lot of butterflies lay their eggs on curry patta. It's a host plant for a whole bunch of butterflies, and they eat the leaves as well. So usually when we do our conservation projects or when we do our sort of agricultural projects, we try to leave, say, 10%, 20% for the wildlife to forage on, because many times what wildlife eat and what people eat are the same. So I wonder if you could maybe earmark a few plants and just let them be for the wildlife. And you know, the plant itself can be part of a corridor for a butterfly or for birds that might feed on the berries, etc. So just consider that as well, and make sure that the plants that you're using are actually native and that they're actually edible. Thanks.
Thank you so much for the feedback. All the best for your action plan and the implementation. We now move to the third school for the action plan. I request you to kindly raise your hand so that we can unmute you. It is Little Flowers Public School, Delhi.
Good afternoon to everyone present here, and it is with great pride and responsibility that we, on behalf of Little Flowers Senior Secondary School, present our action plan on waste management at this estimated national platform. This is me, Swastika, and Vedika Jain. So we have selected the implement plastic reduction plan for 3 local places in our city, and the reason why we chose this project this is because it reduces pollution in land, rivers, and oceans, and also protects biodiversity and health. Our main focus is on plastic reduction. Also, most of the plastic that you see on road are basically single-use plastic, that is like straws or plastic glass, basically plastic utensils. So our main purpose is that we will recycle those plastics since those are neglected.
So we will start a survey by collecting plastic waste. Since our school has already collected a number of waste through recycling, and we send this to recycle. So in this we will take help of the students, teachers, and the local supporters, and we will create a logbook for this so we can give a proof. In this we can create an awareness by creating by holding a quiz or by making podcast or using social media pages. We can also take its photo documentary. The actions which we can take is like we can make raincoats, life jackets, which we also have made. We can represent in our school program or to sell it to the local buyers so that it can be reach out to more number of people. This last thing is
Ma'am, we'll have to see the next slide. And we'll promote our product through awareness campaign or through our social media page, also with the help of our teachers, and we'll try to complete this project in the time lapse of 16 to 28 July. So the resource required are our teachers who are helping us with this project, and of course the internet. Opportunities that we can leverage is women empowerment. Since 60 to 70% of the waste pickers are women, so this will be like a great initiative for women, and also it will help the SHG groups present in the rural area, which will also be helpful in society upliftment. And challenges that we are facing is like eco-friendly approaches to address environmental and safety concerns. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that explanation. I request the experts to kindly proceed with the feedback.
Thanks for that. Okay, I have two comments. The first is I'm not clear how you're making raincoats and life jackets from this waste plastic, because you are going to get different kinds of plastic. They're going to have different durability and different kind of grades of plastic. So you need to ensure that if you're making products, they're not from the carcinogenic, meaning they're not from the sort of plastic which flakes off or has bad chemicals. So there are also many different kinds of plastic, and some plastic is not good for health and should not be part of anything that we wear on our body. So you have to make sure that if you're making this kind of product, it has to be safe. The second thing, it's a very, it's great that you guys are so ambitious. You want to do many things from, collecting waste to making the product to helping the local women or the groups to sell. But I think it's better if you kind of see if you can train these local groups and let them do their sale themselves, because then it can also carry on after your project is over. So you need to also think, if this is something that has to have lasting value, then it's better if they are trained and then they can continue it after your project is finished. That would be a great contribution. So it would be your learning, but it would also be their learning, and it would be a legacy project that could last many years. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am,
So,
for your feedback.
I think great intent, very well thought. Lots, of course, has been planned. I think what is missing here in the first place is what exactly do you want to achieve? You have to again further define, narrow down how much of plastic waste from which area, what problem do you want to solve. And before you even get to that point, I would suggest that you, based on your survey, since you already have planned survey, gather some data and then you make a plan which is a little more informed, so that you're absolutely clear about what exactly is the problem that you're trying to solve. And when you solve is, what is the change that you will see. So I would suggest think about that. And the other thing, of course, like Neha pointed, uh, we do not know if the quotes that you are creating out of this waste that you're collecting, whether people would be interested in even buying those. I know a lot of schools undertake these projects and they create products which again end up becoming more waste, right? Because then to make this raincoat, you will have used some adhesive, some other material, and then people are not interested because it does not meet the quality standards, right? So it is best, like Neha suggested, uh, do look at agencies and recyclers who are actually doing it in the professional manner and creating, genuinely upcycling the products, rather than you just creating something which is not sustainable. So that needs to be thought through. Instead of you creating this yourself, I would suggest you reach out to some local recyclers who can actually use this waste in the right manner and can dispose it sustainably. So upcycling is something that we need to be a little careful about. So that's my, and can you just come right to the bottom, Avni? I think so. There's something that I'd like to highlight, and it is absolutely commendable where you are. The opportunities that you have thought about is how you are looking at working with the self-help groups, empowering women who can, have a livelihood out of this. So that is a great thought. In challenges, you mentioned safety concerns. So you will have to think about mitigating these challenges as well. What measures should you take to make sure that when you're when you're going for waste collection drives, you're using proper gloves. So you have to think about that as well, since you've already identified that as a problem. So these are some of the points that maybe you can just keep in mind when you're planning the project, and think end to end. What exactly do I want to achieve by the end of 28th of July, right? So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much. Few points that I have to suggest is, I think the target has slightly been misunderstood here, where the target says implement plastic reduction plan for 3 local businesses in your city. So here you'd first need to identify local businesses who are using plastic, and then you need to suggest alternatives for the plastic that is being used. So I'd suggest rethinking that is one. And the second thing is the timeline. So just to clarify, 28th July is the final deadline to submit your action plan template, where you fill and you submit a PDF to us. We will be sharing a Google form with you and all these links with you on the WhatsApp group. But the implementation time is still end of October. So you need to create your action plan accordingly. So you have ample time. You can incorporate all those ideas that you have. Thank you so much. We will now move to the next school for presenting the action plan. So this is, so here we have the fourth school with the target, restore a local degraded ecosystem by engaging all the stakeholders. Can we have the school presenting the action plan? So Vidya Niketan Public School. Can
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have them? Yes, great.
Yes, ma'am. I'm audible, ma'am.
Yes, you are.
Yes, ma'am. So good morning, everyone present here. My name is Siddharth D. Murthy of Class 10 from Vidya Niketan Public School, Bangalore. I am present here with my partner, Tanav K, and my coordinating teacher. And it is my absolute pleasure to present our action plan today in front of the WWF-India panelists and the experts. So to start off, our target is target number 1, which is about the restoration of a local degraded ecosystem by engaging all the stakeholders. Our SMART target is identify essential water bodies in our city and formulate a plan to analyze their health, identify invasive species, and restore them, working with local authorities by 2030. The reason we chose this target is because Bangalore, once hailed as the city of 1,000 lakes, has now undergone massive urbanization and has lost over 93 lakes in the past decade. We want to raise awareness and work towards restoring the rapidly declining biodiversity of Bangalore, along with preserving its green and blue spaces, which is crucial as pollution is at an all-time high. So, starting off with our action plan, our first action is about identifying the local wetland and water bodies in our cities. We will do this using online sources for secondary research to make a white list of wetlands and water bodies, further followed by on-site visits for final selection. This will be done by our team and will be conducted by the end of July. We will monitor progress through checklists. Our second action is about assessing the health and biodiversity of the area over a period of time. It is going to be done through chemical analysis in laboratories and water testing kits to measure pH and other specific contaminants which are hazardous, and using secondary research and manually tracking the biodiversity of the area. It is going to be done by our team along with NGOs and local authorities by the end of August 2025. We are going to monitor the progress by monitoring the survival of aquatic species, measuring the concentration of pollutants, and comparing them with initial reports, and physical monitoring and visual survey. Our third action will be regarding removing alien invasive species and pollutants such as plastics. We will organize cleanup rallies to collect plastic waste and the manual removal of invasive alien species, along with measures to prevent reintroduction to the ecosystem. This is going to be conducted by the local community, NGOs, student volunteers, lake authorities, and our own team. We will finish this by the second week of September, and we will monitor progress through physical monitoring, visual survey, along with images and videos of progress. Our final action will be about spreading awareness in the local community, which is the most important of them all. We are going to conduct this by putting up posters, banners, handing away cloth bags with eco-friendly drawings by us, increasing awareness in our school through educational trips and awareness sessions for the local community hosted by students and our own team. And we are going to work along with NGOs, local radio stations, social media influencers to spread awareness and bring change. This is going to be conducted by our own team, local residents, nearby businesses, and students. We are going to finish this also by the second week of September, and we are going to monitor progress through the likes and share count, social media analytics, NGO reports, visual survey, and our own reports. The primary challenges that we face with the implementation of this target are primarily the lack of awareness, along with the lack of cooperation from local municipal authorities and the local community. We aim to overcome these challenges with our actions to raise and spread awareness, along with persuading the local community and authorities with our project. Finally, we thank the WWF India team for this opportunity, along with the MCOP 6 targets, MCOP 6 experts, and the panelists for their guidance over the past 3 days, which has been invaluable and has helped us formulate this action plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, team, for that presentation. I request the experts to kindly give the feedback.
Okay, thank you. This is a great project, and I really feel these are the kind of things that can make a difference locally. I would just suggest aquatic systems are deeply interconnected with birds that fish in the aquatic system, with an insect life, with a very varied insect life, like dragonfly odonates, which are dragonflies and damselflies, along with many other kind of animals or invertebrates who might be using the area. So when you're doing your change analysis, when you're trying to contrast how it was and how it will be after you do your work, it would be great to have also observations of maybe one kind of species. It could be birds, it could be dragonflies. Birds and dragonflies are both good indicators of the health of ecosystems. It could be amphibians like frogs. So that's up to you, but it will really add value. And one of the best ways to understand if water is healthy is by looking at its biodiversity. So, I mean, of course, we can do pH tests and chemical analyses, but its worth in the world is usually measured by whether animals can live in it or use it. So, please make a bird list or a dragonfly list or a frog list, whatever animal taxa that appeals to you, whoever can guide you on this, and then continue to monitor also using that as an indicator. That would be a really also a wonderful way for you to learn how wetlands are important for non-humans, for animals that are our sort of kin or cousins. And getting fresh water in a city can be really hard, not just for birds, but also for animals like bats, for dragonflies, which start their life in water. So please do that, and it'll add a lot of value to your project.
Definitely, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Neha. One quick, again, input. I think you've missed using the template. Do use the template because it helps you think about the resources that you would require through this. It will help you think about the opportunities that you can leverage to maximize the output. And it will also help you think about the challenges so you can mitigate those. So I think, so these are some of the important points which you have missed in this action plan. And if you go right to the bottom, Avni, what you are doing is you are engaging with the local community for the removal of alien species and doing the awareness drive parallelly around the same time. I think so the awareness activity should happen before you engage the local community, because that is going to help you involve and engage the local communities and convince them to be a part of this particular action. So I think so there you may have to rethink the timeline. And the rest, I think it's a great project. It's been thought very realistically. You know that exactly what you have to work on and where you're going to create the impact. So in those terms, I think so it's a very well thought project, and all the best to you.
Thank you so much, team, for the presentation. All the best for your action planning. You may now create this on the action plan template that we've provided you and submit it before the 28th of July. Next, we have the final schools presentation. Can we have the final school, please? You may raise your hand and we will unmute you.
Good morning to everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Veda Kannan from KSN Senior Secondary School, Tamil Nadu, Chennai. As a part of for this event, we have picked the target conserve the green and blue spaces in our city by engaging stakeholders. This aligns with the KMGBF 12th target as well as our MCOP 6's target 6.
So as a part of this action plan, we have come up with 3 actions. The first one is conducting beach cleanups. So the first activity under this, as stated, is the beach cleanup activity, where we will be engaging our school students to clean up the beach, which promotes awareness and their sensitivity to their surroundings and marine ecosystem. Another activity will be the planting of beach morning glory and other beach-friendly plants, which will stabilize sand dunes and enhance sand fertility. We will also be incorporating AI-driven dustbins, which prevent overflowing and promote waste management. This not only cleans our beaches, but also ensures that our beaches stay clean. So our stakeholders for this action will be the student delegates, student volunteers, the members of our school's eco club, and our partnership with technology. We will be incorporating this activity by November 2025. The progress of this action will be measured through the amount of waste we collect and remove, and also by the number of volunteers that sign up, plus the public response that we get. The next action is the fostering of biodiversity and increasing of green cover. So the first activity as a part of this action is improving the soil fertility for green cover by introducing earthworms. Then so this is an activity that is currently going on in our school and will continue, is the growth of saplings through the multiple farming. This creates an ecosystem, but also improves and sustains our soil health for further growth. Another activity that is going on and will continue is the growth of bamboos in and around our locality. This not only helps mitigate our carbon footprint, but also reduces global warming. The next activity is the growth of native grasses and trees. One issue that is in our city, Chennai, is that there is a lot of stagnation during the monsoon months. So these native grasses and trees help absorb runoff and prevent stagnation. We will also be setting up bird feeders in and around our locality to attract biodiversity and improve it. The stakeholders of this action will be, again, our student delegates, plus student volunteers, and our school's nature club. This will be incorporated by November 2025. The progress will be measured through the number of saplings that we are planting and the amount of which survive. We will also be measuring the progress through the number of earthworms that turn up, plus the new wildlife like pollinators as such that are also spotted. The next action is our awareness drive. So as a part of this, our students will be engaging in creation of posters and placards, and also will be interacting with the public to create awareness, which will impact them as well as the public. Next up will be street plays and flash mobs organized on our beaches to make the public aware about marine litter and its impacts on our ecosystem. We will also be taking our students on nature walks. This creates a sensitivity to what our ecosystem is, the local biodiversity also. We will also be distributing seeds to local homes and to the students so that we can increase the green cover around our city. We will also be creating a club. We have multiple clubs, but we will create an exclusive club to organize and monitor the progress of this action plan. We also hope to start a local native seed exchange. That is where residents and locals can donate and borrow seeds. This creates a space for community dialogue on a local species. Our stakeholders for this action will be student delegates, student volunteers, as well as local community volunteers. We plan on incorporating this by between July to September 2025. The progress for this action will be measured through surveys before and after drive to understand just how much impact has been created. Thank you. I'd like to thank the WWF team for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I request Neha ma'am to kindly give you the feedback.
Sure, Avni, thank you. First of all, very well done. I think it's a great effort, KSN School Chennai. Some of the points, one again, I think so you used the entire template. You've completely missed thinking about the resources, opportunities, and challenges, and how you would mitigate those challenges. Some of the key points here again, number one, you're looking at working in multiple locations. So I think so you have to further define the problem and narrow down the area of impact so that it is realistic and it is achievable. The other, because you are looking at working in the beach and in within your school campus and in the local and working with the local communities. So there you have to narrow down to identifying a location where you want to solve the problem. The other thing, if you focus on the beach does not have earthworms. So you will have to think about that as well when you are proposing a
We're actually
solution.
near the beach right now. It's barely like 2 kilometers, not even 2 kilometers away. So the beach was actually a close by ecosystem that we wanted to work with.
Our school is very
That
close to beach, ma'am. Our soil is different from where the beach is being located. So it's almost probable to do it, both the sides.
it's perfectly fine. So if you want to do both the sides and you think you can manage that, that's perfectly fine. So my what I'm trying to tell you here is you do not see earthworms in the beach. So you have to first conduct a survey
No,
to
no, that we are not
identify the
doing.
problem. Okay, so
Yes,
so
ma'am. So
that's
that part was
something.
preparing for.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
just
Thank you.
do think about that. Secondly, morning glory is an invasive species and should not be planted. So just kind of refrain from that. Only look at native plants. And the other thing is, I also heard one of you saying that you will be using AI-driven dustbins. This might be resource intensive, so you may want to rethink about that as well. How you will manage the resources and accordingly decide on the solutions you propose. It is best that you look at inexpensive, locally available solutions that will help you achieve greater success and will require minimal funds and resources. So that these are some of the inputs that I have. Avni, is there anything that you'd like to add?
A few things quickly. Some again, like adding on to what Neha ma'am said, bamboos, you plan to grow bamboos, that may not always happen. Also, you may have to think of the native species that are growing there. Growing them within this span of time also may not be possible. You can plant some species, also just check again if they are native or not, locally available or not. Please do not set up bird feeders. That is not an ethical practice. So we avoid attracting any kind of wildlife using artificial food. You can grow native, you can plant native trees and grasses and so on, and let the birds, allow the birds and other animals to come there naturally. You cannot provide them with any artificial food. The timeline here that you've written is November 2025. So I request to kindly look into that as well. We need to close the projects by October 2025, the implementation. You can obviously continue to implement them at your personal level. We would also really appreciate and love to share your stories beyond MCOP 6 implementation as well. But this is something that you can edit when you're submitting the final action plan. Thank you so much. Also, just quickly, you may need to edit this. We don't know what this target is. This is not something that we have given. The target that we have provided is conserve the green and blue spaces. So please be clear as to what exactly you want to work upon. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Ma'am,
Avni, just one
about
thing
the
I'd like to add.
target. Ma'am, so about the
Sorry,
target, we were actually brainstorming and then we forgot to remove it. And about the AI dustbins, I think it actually already exists in the and it's actually being incorporated in multiple apartments around, and it is reasonable, I think. So that is one. And another thing we wanted to mention was that yes.
We can have this discussion after words. So thank you so much for presenting your action plans. I will stop presenting my screen and I request Caroline to kindly proceed. Thank you.
Before that, there's just one thing I'd like to add over here. All those who further have queries, because we just could pick up five, the time only allowed us to pick up five. We are going to organize another Q&A session in the following week to help you with all your queries as you work on the action plan. So do not worry if you have not had a chance to ask us any questions with respect to your action plans. So thank you, and over to Caroline now.
Thank you. So it was amazing looking at the different ideas and the great innovation and creativity brought to conservation by all the school groups. And I'm really excited to look at what the other school groups also have in store. And thank you to Neha Raghav ma'am and Miss Neha Sinha and Miss Avni Gupta for moderating and giving such great feedback to the students. Now, on to our last session for the day. We have with us the eminent Dr. Ruchi Pant. Dr. Pant currently heads Natural Resource Management and Biodiversity at the United Nations Development Programme. She brings experience from previous roles at UNDP and the International Institute for Environment and Development. An alumnus of Delhi University and the Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, Dr. Pant has been a visiting environment law fellow at University of California, Berkeley, and a policy consultant with WaterAid United Kingdom. Requesting the spotlight on Dr. Pant, please. Hello, Dr. Pant. Yes.
A very good afternoon, and thank you so much, first of all, to invite me here to speak to all these students, and such a great opportunity to see these young, bright minds, which we normally don't get to do. So also, I just wanted to highlight while introducing, the other things are fine, but I also wanted to say that I am an alumni of WWF. And also, I've been from the first batch of the Center for Environmental Law that has been set up under the WWF. So very happy, and it's a proud moment for me also to be here joining you all. And also, I would like to thank some of my colleagues. I really didn't have much time. I normally don't accept speaking slots because of my busyness. But this is a subject which is close to my heart, although I don't get time to work on it much. But still, I thought it'll be an opportunity to refresh myself also, which I didn't get. But my colleagues have helped me put together a presentation. So I'd like to thank Vibhu, Priya, Shivani, Ajit, Athira, and also you'll be surprised to know that I'm sitting at the apex body of biodiversity conservation in the country today. I'm visiting NBA in Chennai. So I'm doing this presentation from the NBA office. I have my other colleagues here, Gayatri and Abina also have joined me. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I think it's been quite a very enriching 3 days. I joined about half an hour earlier, so I could, volume is low, okay. Is it better now? So I was able to listen to the presentations of the students, and I think they've learned so much in these 3 days. Probably they're already doing a lot of work in this field of conservation, and that I'm able to hear, oh my God, okay, this is always the case. What to do? Maybe I should come closer to the speaker.
You're audible, Dr. Pant. Please go ahead. You're clearly audible.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I just wanted to, voice is not clear. The students are saying.
it may be the network of the individual children. So we can hear you clearly, which means there's no issue from your end.
Okay. So I think there may have been presentations in the last 3 days talking a lot about the environmental problems, which we normally call as the triple planetary crisis, where it involves climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. I'm sure there have been presentations, so you know what these problems are. And I can clearly see that in your presentation and the action plans you have prepared, that there's already quite a good understanding. I just wanted to highlight just a little background to the presentation today. There is a scientific approach to conservation, and there is also a need similarly, you also need a legislative approach to conservation, which means scientific action as well as legal action. And as you may have heard that most of these problems are, these transcend national boundaries. Most of these problems are not limited to national boundaries. Their impacts go beyond national boundaries. So there is a need, while we have a good plethora of legislation in India to protect and conserve our biodiversity, we have just for examples, we have the Environment Protection Act, we have Wildlife Protection Act, we have the Biological Diversity Act. Oh my God. Okay, I'm trying. I'll try to speak louder. We have the Forest Act, Indian Forest Act, we have the Forest Conservation Act, but the jurisdiction of these laws is within the country, which is within the boundaries of the country, India. But as I said, our problems go beyond our national boundaries, and it's the same for other countries, and that's why there's a need to have conventions or international laws. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is the environmental conventions. There are 7 international environmental conventions that I'm going to speak. I'll kind of familiarize you with. Probably you already know about those. We also have a few quizzes in between. Before each convention, I will request again Avni. Thanks to Avni, she is helping me with the slides and the quiz. So Avni, I will now. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So why environmental conventions matter? I just mentioned that the environmental problems are not restricted to a state or a country. They go beyond borders. So it's important to have a legislation or an international law which helps different countries come together. Just like what you have prepared an action plan. Even countries have to prepare an action plan. They have to have a funding mechanism. You need to have funds to implement that action plan. And then you also need some kind of a coordinated action for these frameworks, to implement these action plans and frameworks. And for that, there is the need for these conventions. And I would also like to, I feel that you people are already doing quite a bit. I see your presentations. These are your futuristic action plans, but I'm sure many of you are already doing things in your own society, in your schools. But this must be more on a voluntary basis. As you grow up and move into colleges, and you will look at professions. So I also wanted to before I start the presentation, early on, I wanted to say that, this is not I'm very happy that WWF is doing this kind of model COP for a few years now, because this is also preparing you to get into new careers, So it's not, in our times, there were very few careers, we would only look at, our parents would say, you become a doctor, or you become a lawyer, or you become, you enter the services, join the Indian Administrative Services or Forest Service. There were limited options. But now, environment has so many different options. So if you are interested in working with nature at the field level, you can pick up life sciences, you can become an ecologist, you can become a taxonomist, you can become a marine biologist. So there are so many different subject areas. If you want to work on policy, you can become you can study environmental law, public policy. You can, if you want to get into governance, environmental governance or forest governance, you can get into the services, become an IFS for Indian officer of the Indian Forest Services. So there are huge things. If you want to become an entrepreneur, I just heard someone talking about nurseries and saplings. So I think these days there's a paucity and dearth of good nurseries, you can generate good nurseries, you can get into biotechnology, you can have nurseries of endangered species, medicinal plants. So, and then ecotourism. These days, a lot of youngsters, especially after COVID, I know so many people who have moved to the hills or the beachside Goa, and they are working from there. And they are trying to promote homestays, they're doing Airbnbs. So there are a lot of things which you can promote with local communities. So there is whole gamut of careers that you can opt for. So I think let's move to the quiz now. I don't want to speak too much. Let's move to the quiz.
Okay. I'll take these questions. Hope that's okay. So the first question that we have is, how can we enhance farm productivity naturally? We'll show you a few options. These are multiple choice questions. We have the options here: using fertilizers, through biotechnology, bees, or using pesticides. I request you to kindly drop the correct answer that you think is the correct answer into the Q&A box. Bees. Okay. One, some people say using fertilizers. Some people say bees. Okay. Lots of C's. We're also getting B and C, that is through biotechnology and bees. Okay, great.
That was a mistake. They've corrected it. Yeah.
Let's see what the correct answer is. It's bees. So bees play a very critical role in pollinating crops, which boosts yields and enhances food production naturally without using any chemicals. Can we move to the second question? When you use antibiotics like penicillin, you're using a medicine that originally came from, and your options are a fungus or a mold, a snake, a tree root, or a mineral pesticide. So we have a lot of answers coming in the chat box. That is A. I think most of you are saying A. Are you sure about this? We proceed to the answer. Let's see what the correct answer is. It is A. Yes, absolutely correct. Penicillin was discovered from the mold Penicillium, showing how biodiversity can lead to life-saving medicines. Can we have the next question, please? Why is biodiversity important for humans? Now, can we have the options? The first option is it provides us with a variety of food, medicine, and resources. Second is it makes the planet look beautiful. Third, it is not important for humans. And the fourth is that it is a primary cause of diseases. We see a lot of A's. Okay, lots of A's here. Let's see what the correct answer is. Correct answer is A, yes. It provides us with a variety of food, medicine, and resources. Biodiversity, it supports human survival in many ways and also human well-being. So thank you so much. We'll have another round of Q&A after ma'am talks a little bit more about conventions. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, thanks, Avni. Thanks. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so this is the Convention on Biological Diversity, one of the most important conventions that we all work on. Although there are 7 conventions that I'm going to speak on, and you'll find that as I present, you'll see there's a lot of there are a lot of common elements, and there are synergies that can be brought under these 7 conventions. So this convention, you all may have heard about the Rio Summit, the Earth Summit in Rio in 1992. So this is one of the 3 conventions that was signed at the Rio, and this was in 1992. And there were 996 countries who have come together to implement. They have adopted this convention, and they are implementing this convention. You know, I think about COP as well, because you've been attending these model COPs, what the purpose of the COPs are. And the biodiversity COP happens once in 2 years. So you'll see so far 16 COPs have happened, and decisions are important. Decisions are taken. And sometimes if there are certain elements which are very specific or technical in nature, then there are protocols that are created. For example, you'll see that under the CBD, there are two conventions, the Cartagena Protocol and the Nagoya Protocol. So the Cartagena Protocol is important. It's also called the Biosafety Protocol or Agreement. And it relates to safe use of
I think there has been a network issue at Dr. Ruchipan's end. So while we wait for her to reconnect, I think we can have the next set of Q&As. Okay, so the first question here is, which fruit might become scarce due to climate change affecting rainfall and temperature? Can we have the options? It's banana, apple, orange, or all of these. Can we have your answers in the chat box? Okay, so we have some people saying A or D. We're getting a mix of A or D from people, lots of people saying D as well, some people saying orange. Okay, so let's see what the correct answer is. Can we have the correct answer? It is all of these. So changing rainfall and temperatures can impact many crops, including all of these: bananas, apples, and oranges. Can we have the next question, please? Which drink depends on biodiversity and is threatened by climate change? We'll show you 4 options: coffee, water, soda, and juice. Can we have your answers, please, in the chat box? Okay, so we have some people answering coffee, some people answering water. It's a mix of coffee and water that I can see. Anything else? Do you think soda or juice could also be the answers? Okay, lots of A's and B's. Some people also say juice. Okay, let's see what the correct answer is. So the correct answer is coffee. Coffee plants are sensitive to temperature and rainfall patterns, making them vulnerable to climate change. Next, we have question 3. Which daily habit helps fight climate change and protect biodiversity? Here are your options: using more AC, planting trees, wasting water, or burning waste. Can we have the correct answer that you may think is the correct answer in the chat box? This one people say is easy. Let's see what the answer is. Yes, it is planting trees. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. We have Dr. Ruchipan back with us, so we'll proceed with her part now. We'll just quickly move to that slide, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Avni, for... Shall I begin?
Yes, ma'am, you may begin.
Yeah. Sorry about this glitch. So I was just mentioning how there are 2 protocols that are there under the CBD, the convention. Yeah, sorry. Sorry for that disturbance. So yeah, I was talking about these 2 protocols, which are very specific and they needed extra attention. So there are these 2 protocols that have been created under the CBD. One is the Cartagena protocol, which deals with biosafety. You all must be knowing about genetic engineering, etc. And there is a lot of controversy about crops and fruits being grown using genetic engineering. So sometimes there are safeguards that need to be maintained. So this protocol basically looks at how to regulate and control such microorganisms, genetically modified organisms. And the second protocol, Nagoya Protocol, is mostly about sharing of benefits, fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from the use of biological genetic resources in a country, which are under community governance, could be under any governance, but the fair share of benefit should come back to the community and the country where the resource and knowledge has origin. So these are the two, and I'm sure in the last 3 days you have heard a lot more about the CBD. You know about the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Based on that, India has aligned its National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, and we have adopted 23 targets. They are as per national circumstances, we say. So countries have the choice to either pick up all, either modify these 23, or depending on the circumstances, we can have fewer targets also. I'm sure you've had sessions on that, so I don't want to dwell more on this. Maybe we'll come back to another quiz. Oh, you already had the quiz, right? So we can move on to the next convention.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is it's called, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
So the next convention, can we please change the slide? Can we move to the next slide, please? We'll come to the next convention, right? So you can see the convention is the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. We call it in short UNFCCC. This is also one of the 3 Rio conventions, which is much talked about. This was also adopted in 1992. There are 198 countries working on this, 2 more than the ones in CBD. Now, this convention, I mean, that's why it shows the importance, because this convention's meeting happen more often every year. The Conference of Party meets every year. Hence, they've already had 29 meetings of the convention. Here also, you'll see there are more protocols. There is another Kyoto Protocol. There's the Paris Agreement. So these are milestone landmark events where important decisions are taken related to climate change. And you must have heard India has also adopted some what we call NDCs, nationally determined contributions. So we have set our own targets, and actions are being taken by the government to see how we can try and meet these targets. So we also look at climate change as a major driver for biodiversity loss. And the link is, if we conserve biodiversity, it also acts as sink, carbon sink. If we strengthen, we have a good biodiversity, then we also have a resilient community which depends on this biodiversity. So you can see the links between climate change and biodiversity. I think biodiversity can form the basis for climate action. For nature-based solutions. So, okay, now we come to the next quiz. Yeah, we can come to the next quiz. Avni, can we move on to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am. So I will do the quiz now. Can we please have your answers in the chat box? So the question that we have here is, what happens to soil when too many animals graze in one area? A, it becomes more fertile. B, it causes desertification. C, it grows more grass. And D, it becomes waterproof. We have some people saying C, some people saying B. You're getting a mix of both. That is, it grows desertification, it causes desertification, and it grows more grass. Can we see what the correct answer is, please? So, overgrazing removes vegetation, leaving soil exposed and vulnerable to erosion and degradation of soil. Next, we move to the second question, which is, which location in India was reclaimed from closed mining into a lush green biodiversity hub? And your options are Aravali Biodiversity Park, Yamuna Basin, the Red Fort, and the Golden Temple. And can we have the answers, please? We have some answers. A, I can see some C's, the Red Fort. Lots of A's, Aravali Biodiversity Park. Can we have in the chat box where this park is exactly located? We have Yamuna Basin as well. Aravali, where is this biodiversity park located? Which state is it a part of? Rajasthan, lots of Rajasthans. Okay, Gujarat also some people say. Okay, so can we have the answer? The answer is rightly Aravali Biodiversity Park. This site transformed a former mining area into a thriving biodiversity hotspot through restoration efforts. You can also, it's a driving distance from Delhi, so people around Delhi NCR can definitely go and drive there. Can we have the next question, which is what role do earthworms play in preventing desertification? And your options are they eat harmful insects, they improve soil health and structure, they create underground tunnels, and they produce fertilizer. So we see lots of B's, some C's also. Also, they produce fertilizer. Okay, let's see what the correct answer is. It is B. They improve soil health and structure. They enhance soil aeration, fertility, and water retention, which is critical for healthy ecosystems. Next slide. This is the last question before we move to Dr. Pant's session. How do plants prevent desertification? Your options are they make soil more colorful, their roots hold soil together, they attract more sunlight, or they create more wind. We see lots of B's. Somebody says A, B, C, D, all. Okay, let's see the correct answer. The roots hold soil together, while some of other things may also be true, but they prevent desertification by holding the soil together. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll be back for another quiz. Over to you, Dr. Pant.
Okay, I wanted them to guess which convention we are going to speak about, but it's okay. So you see the title is here. The next convention is the UN Convention to Combat Desertification. We call it UNCCD in brief. So this is again one of the important three Rio conventions, again signed in 1992 at the Rio Summit, Earth Summit. Now, unlike the climate convention, which many of you may have heard of, the climate convention, even biodiversity convention, those who are interested in biodiversity and nature, they may have heard of these two conventions. But this is a convention I don't think many people may have heard of. It's not much in the news. However, it affects over 1.5 billion people globally. So it's a huge loss if we are losing our fertile soil. And you know, soil is a very important ingredient. It's the basis for even biodiversity. We have soil biodiversity. All agriculture is dependent on good soil. So it's an important convention, but not often talked about. It's only in the recent years that it started gaining some importance and people are talking about it, and even the governments are taking more action. Some of you in the last, in the quiz mentioned about the Aravali Park being in Rajasthan or Gujarat. So Aravalis actually straddle across Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, and Delhi. But the park, as Avni mentioned, is in part of it is in Gurgaon and part of it is in Delhi. So it's basically part of the NCR region. So coming again, there are 197 parties. So mostly almost the same number of countries are there in all these three Rio conventions. And just to talk about the alarm, so it's not only just the people, but how much land is getting degraded every year. So it's about 100 million hectares of useful land that we are losing to degradation and desertification. So when we talk about the UNCCD, this convention, we are talking about forests, agricultural lands, and also grasslands, rangelands. In some country, they call them rangelands. All of you must be knowing how much dependent women are. Women are really affected by all the three conventions: climate change, biodiversity loss, and also the loss of fertile soil. Hence, the role of women in these conventions is becoming more and more important, and there is a realization, and in each convention, especially in the last COP of UNCCD, there was an important, more importance was given to look at women's role in conservation and restoration. Also in 2015 at the COP, the countries adopted this concept of land degradation neutrality. So there is a goal, just like we have 23 NBT under the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan and the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Under UNCCD in 2015 in the COP, the countries adopted the land degradation neutrality target to balance land loss with land restoration. And this is also aligned with the sustainable development goal target, which is 15.3. Habitats and threatens species survival. And hence, the restoration of such lands is very important to also bring back our biodiversity. And here also you will find there are a lot of career opportunities. We have listed a few, not on the screen, but for example, one can do restoration ecology, one can become a soil scientist, one can actually practice sustainable farming. Actually, again, when I come back to the COVID times, a lot of people have gone back to their origins. Many of people have moved to rural areas or semi-urban areas to start farming, practice sustainable farming. So that is also a good approach, a good future for those who would like to work on the ground, on land, and try to protect land from future losses. So I think this is all for this convention. I don't think there's much time to talk too much about the conventions. It's just to familiarize you with these conventions. Can we move on to the next slide, please? This is again a quiz before we move to the next convention. Avni, can I request you to?
Yes, ma'am, we'll do. Yes. So the first question is, which lake in Manipur is known for its floating islands called Fumis? Your options are Chilika Lake, Dal Lake, Loktak Lake, and Sambar Lake. We have some D's, C's. Lots of C's now. Can we see what the correct answer is? It is the Loktak Lake, which is in Manipur. It is famous for its fumris, their unique floating biomass that support a lot of biodiversity. Can we have the next question?
And
in
also
which
the
region? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. The Manipur dancing deer. In which region of India will you find a salty wetland with both a freshwater lake and a salt lake side by side, home to many migratory birds? Can we have the options? Western Ghats, Ladakh, Sundarbans, and Andaman Islands. So we see lots of mixed answers, A, B, C, D. Okay, can we move to the correct answer, please? It is Ladakh. Ladakh features a rare combination of lakes like the Pangong Tso Lake, which is a saline lake, and the So Muriri Lake, which is a freshwater lake, and it is extremely crucial for migratory birds. Now, the third question, the water you drink might have been naturally filtered by, here are your options: sand dunes, wetlands and marshes, underground rocks, and river currents. We see lots of C's, that is underground rocks. We have an A, sand dunes, underground rocks, lots of underground rocks. A is also sand dunes. Okay, can we see the correct answer? You'd be surprised, but it is wetlands, and marshes. They act as natural filters and they remove pollutants and replenish the groundwater. Can we have the next question? What is the name of the convention associated with conservation and wise use of wetlands? Is it the UN Convention to Combat Desertification? Is it the Ramsar Convention? Or the World Heritage Convention? Or the CITES, that is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species? We see lots of mixes of A, B, and C. These also. Okay, let's see what the correct answer is. It is the Ramsar Convention. Thank you so much, and I request Dr. Pants to kindly proceed.
Okay, so I think they have got, some of them did get the correct answer. So that's right. This next convention we are going to talk about is called the Convention on Wetlands. And it's also known as Ramsar Convention because it was signed in a small town called Ramsar in Iran. And this was, there are 172 countries that are party to this convention. And so far, about 2,500 wetlands have been declared as Ramsar sites globally. In India, we have declared about 91 wetlands as Ramsar sites, so wetlands includes places like marshes, rivers, lakes, swamps, mangroves, and peatlands. And wetlands, as Avni mentioned, they provide lots of ecosystem services or benefits, both to ecology and human beings. They help control floods, they clean water, they store carbon, and they regulate temperature and rainfall as well. And wetlands are some of the richest ecosystems on the earth in terms of biodiversity also. So although they only cover 6% of the earth's surface, but they support 40% of all plants and animal species. So they're really very important. And I saw one of the school has picked up working on wetlands as their project. I'm very happy to see that. It's an interesting, very fascinating convention. So it's easier to connect, especially for youth. You can do a lot. Wetlands are also very important for migratory birds and animals who rely on them for resting, feeding, and breeding. But sadly, wetlands are disappearing. You won't believe they're disappearing 3 times faster than the forests. You may have heard of so much of encroachment, reclamation. So all water bodies, especially from urban areas, you see, we are losing on wetlands. So it's very important to be aware about it. And youth voices are always very important, for the future generations you need. I mean, we need it now also. We've heard that the floods that are caused in a city like Chennai, Bangalore, Mumbai, it's because of the reclamation and encroachment on lakes and water bodies. So it's very important. I'm happy to see that one school has picked up wetlands as their project. I would encourage others also to do the same because it's easy to work around wetlands. I'm sure you have around your school boundaries. Sometimes I've seen in colleges, of course, you haven't reached that level, but it's something you can work on. And a small club around your residence also, students can do that as well. I don't know if of course, WWF have their own green clubs, but there's a road track club also, where youngsters can come together and work. So there are a lot of opportunities for you to work together on these subjects. And as you know, blue carbon, there's a lot of discussion around blue carbon and peatland and ecosystems such as mangroves, which store a large amount of carbon, which is also very important for climate solutions. Okay, I was just thinking at the end, maybe people can come up with some ideas, but you have already had this action plan, so there's not much requirement for this. We will now move on to the next slide, which is again a quiz before the next we discuss the next convention briefly. Yeah, thank you, Avni.
So the question that we have here is, how do sea turtles navigate across oceans? And we have the options. They follow boats. They use magnetic fields like a natural compass. They other sea animals for directions, or they swim at random. Okay, so we see lots of C's, B. Also, they swim randomly. A is also now. Okay, great. Let's see what the correct answer is. It is they use magnetic fields like a natural compass. So sea turtles can sense Earth's magnetic fields and use them to migrate thousands of kilometers away. The next question is, the bright lights from your city at night can confuse migrating birds, migrating butterflies, sea turtle hatchlings, or all of the above. We see all of the above, migrating birds. Okay, lots of people saying all of the above. Can we see what the correct answer is? Yes, rightly. It is all of the above. Artificial lights can disorient many migratory species, affecting their breeding as well as their navigation. The next question is, what is the Bonn Convention? A climate change agreement to reduce carbon emissions, a peace treaty between European countries, a global agreement to protect migratory animals, or a trade deal for wildlife products. And we have the answers. We see option A, option C. Lots of people saying option C or A or B. Okay. Okay, we see lots of C's. Let's see what the correct answer is. The correct answer is a global agreement to protect migratory animals, which also leads us to the convention, to our next convention. I request Dr. Pant to kindly take the stage.
Yeah, so many of you have guessed it correctly. So this is the Convention on Migratory Species of Wild Animals, which is also called the CMS in short. It is also called the Bonn Convention, as many of you could answer in the previous quiz. This is another very interesting and fascinating convention, which I'm sure youth would really want to get identified with, would like to work around this. There are many ways you could do that. So this Bonn Convention, or the Convention on Migratory Species, it was adopted in 1979. The convention's first meeting or the signing took place in Bonn, and that's why it's also known with it's associated with the name of the city where it was signed. And as the name indicates, this agreement is about protecting migratory animals, which includes birds, and especially those which move from one place to another, and they cross borders. Again, it's a convention for birds and animals which move from one country to another, again in search of food, good breeding sites. So yeah. And some of the examples of these species, they are butterflies, birds, whales, turtles, sharks, which travel thousands of kilometers. And this is for food, better weather, and for safe breeding grounds. 1 in 5, I have some facts here, 1 in 5 migratory species on the list of the convention are listed, are at the risk of extinction. And 44% of the species are declining rapidly. As you all know, that birds are important for many reasons, and one being to spread seeds. And also birds are friends of the farmers also, because they help eating the insects and the pests from the fields. Then whales also help in cycle nutrients in the ocean. And there are some fun facts that I have, like the Arctic tern flies more than 70,000 kilometers a year. It's the longest trip made by any animal. The monarch butterflies travel up to 4,000 kilometers from Canada to Mexico, and they weigh less than a paperclip. So this is in short that I wanted to talk about in this convention. Can we move on to the next quiz? Avni, over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. The first question that we have here is, what makes the Great Barrier Reef special? And your options are, it's the largest living structure on Earth, it's made of gold, it's the deepest ocean trench, or that it is perfectly round. Can we have your answers in the chat? It's A, lots of people saying A, C. Okay, lots of people saying A and C's. Let's see what the correct answer is. And it is A. It's the largest living structure on Earth. It spans over 2,300 kilometers, making it the world's biggest coral reef system, and it is also visible from the space. Can we have the next question, please? Question 2. Which popular beverage, enjoyed every morning by millions, originates from plants found in the biodiversity-rich Western Ghats? Is it an orange juice or tea, coffee, or lemonade? We see lots of B's, C's. Okay, let's see what the correct answer is. It is C, coffee. The Western Ghats are a biodiversity. It is a biodiversity hotspot where coffee plants thrive under shaded trees. Can we have the next question? Which bird, whose feathers inspired popular jewelry and decoration items, is protected in the Keoladeo National Park in Rajasthan? Is it peacock, ostrich, penguin, or dove? Can we have the answers in the chat box? People say peacock, but some people also say dove. Okay, let's see what the correct answer is. It is the Indian peafowl, our national bird. It is protected in this park. So that leads us to the next convention. Ma'am, over to you.
Thanks so much, Avni. So this is again a very interesting convention. This convention strives to preserve the world's most outstanding natural and cultural treasures for future generations. This is called the World Heritage Convention. This was adopted in 1972, and 196 countries are party to this convention. If you see the statistics, there are little over 1,000 World Heritage sites in 196 countries. And if you go to their website, you will find that the entire list is there. These include ancient monuments, natural wonders, forests, mountains, and coral reefs. Just to give a few examples from the international or at the global level, the Galapagos Islands, these were the first in Ecuador. This was the first site to be listed in the World Heritage Sites list in 1978. Great Barrier Reef is also an example of a World Heritage Site. And then Yellowstone National Park in US is the first national park that was declared or recognized as a World Heritage Site. Now, coming to India, India has about 43 World Heritage Sites. And you can see there are, we haven't mentioned the architectural one, but Taj Mahal and the Agra Fort. And then there are a lot of sites which are known for its natural importance. The Sundarbans, the Kaziranga, Manas, and the Great Himalayan National Parks. These are important natural heritage sites. Western Ghats is also, the entire Western Ghats it has been recognized as a World Heritage Site. So in India, So, it's important to recognize these areas because they help protect the endangered species, their rare landscapes, and the special ecosystems. It also provides a harbor. It's a harbor for rare plants and animals, but they also act as live laboratories for scientists for future research and also for you all to pick up some of these areas for your tourism. And when you go there, it'll stimulate interest for you to work in such areas in future. And recognition to these sites helps generate awareness on their richness, uniqueness, and also helps mobilize resources for conservation through ecotourism. I won't say too much unregulated tourism is good for such sites because they are important treasures and we have to be careful. So some kind of responsible and ecotourism needs to be followed here. But these are important areas and it brings recognition to such important sites in all countries. Then maybe we can go to the next quiz.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so the question that we have here is which popular pet trade has contributed to species endangerment? And the options that we have are the goldfish, exotic parrots and reptiles, domestic cats, or hamsters. We see a mix of A and B. Lots of B's. Okay, can we have the correct answer, please? It is indeed B, exotic parrots and reptiles. Capturing wild animals for trade, it reduces their populations and harms the ecosystem. The next question is, which souvenir should you avoid buying while traveling? And your options are postcards, products made from endangered species like shells, corals, fur, etc., local textiles, or D, regional food specialties. And we have lots of people saying bees. Somebody says postcards. Okay. But lots of B's. Somebody says D, regional food specialities. Okay, let's see what the correct answer is. It is products made from endangered species. Buying such products drives illegal wildlife trade and pushes species closer to extinction. And now we have the final question for the day, which is the material in old piano keys came from which of these? Cow bones, elephant tusks, whale bones, or synthetic materials? Can we have your answers in the chat box? We see lots of B's, C's. Okay, lots of B's. Can we have the correct answer, please? It is indeed B, that is elephant tusk. Ivory was sourced from elephant tusks and was used in pianos, but is now banned to protect elephants, which leads us to the next convention, which Dr. Ruchi Pant will talk about.
Thanks, Avni. Can we have the next slide? Okay, here is the next slide. So I'm sure you all have guessed. This is again a very, very important convention. It's called the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, or in short, we call it CITES. You must have realized why it's important, and it's basically to combat illegal trade in endangered species. This was adopted in 1973 when the world was experiencing extinction of several species. The convention, as I said, helps in combating illegal trade. It regulates trade, and currently there are 185 countries that have joined this convention, and basically most of the countries. It protects about 36,000 species of flora and fauna, which includes some endangered orchids, elephants found in India, then sharks, turtles, and parrots. So you saw how parrots are really endangered. Now, what does it do? It helps check trade, as I said, in protected species. CITES provides basically 3 levels of protection. I will talk mostly about there are 2 appendices actually to this CITES convention, wherein there are certain species which are listed in Appendix 1, which means no trade is allowed in these species. And the tiger found in India, the Asian elephant, chimpanzee, etc. These are the species which are under Appendix 1 of the CITES. But you will also see in the national legislation, our Wildlife Protection Act, also they are part of what we call Schedule 1. So if you want to understand the law, you will see how there is a lot of alignment of our national laws with the conventions, and that's how we are able to protect these species within the country. The Appendix 2 has listed those species where trade is allowed, but with permits and rules. So there are a lot of species of medicinal plants, for example, coming especially from the high altitude Himalayan landscapes, which are very high value species, and some of them are endangered. In the sense trade, they cannot have high volume trade. So there is regulation, restriction. They have to give certification of cultivation. They should be from cultivated sources. So that's how trade is allowed. So these are the two major appendices. And we know that some of these species have come to the brink of extinction because of over-harvesting, culling, especially when it's medicinal plant, over-extraction of medicinal plants from these areas. So we have to be more mindful, and it's demand which actually creates the supply and of such products. So we need to be careful about what we are buying, not just us, our parents, our friends, our relatives, and that's how we can make a difference towards these endangered species. So that's all. I think this brings us to the end of the 7 conventions. The idea was just to familiarize you with these 7 conventions. Yes, and then you will see that I talked about in the beginning that there is synergy amongst all of these conventions. We have to see what we can do, what as youth, as school students we can do currently, and how we can pick up careers of our choice. Before the career, we have to see what we want to study next, and then how do we make a difference now and then later. So if you go to the next slide, I have a few, I've made a list of a few things you can do. You can join as youth volunteers with, in different, and get attached to different organizations like WWF, and there are many other such organizations across the country. WWF is an international organization, but there are a lot of local and state level organizations also that you can get attached to. People can do some work in their resident welfare association. They can work with their parents who are part of these associations within their colony and apartments. You can participate, not immediately, but there are these youth delegates, the UN conferences, these conventions, they allow participation of youth also. So as observers, so you can also be part of that. Then again, you can pick up in school itself, you can pick up, citizen science projects. I'm sure some of you who are into bird watching probably know there is a tool called there's an app called eBird, where whenever you travel somewhere and you're doing bird watching, you can immediately, put down, your sightings, where you've sighted, how many, etc. And it gets part of the database and it generates data for the country. So such citizen science projects you can do for other species also, not just birds, but if the bird one is more popular. We in UNDP have a project on small wildcats. So we are also planning to start something of this kind, citizen science program around that. Maybe you can get attached to that as well. We want to come up with a national atlas on small wild cats. We only know of domestic cats, but very few people know about the small wild cats. We only talk about big cats like tiger, leopard, snow leopard, now the cheetah, etc. But there are cats like fishing cat, caracal, leopard cat, jungle cat. There's so many cats, so we should also be aware of other such cats. Then again, you can intern, once you are out of school, or maybe there are certain schools, certain organizations which do allow school students as interns. You can participate, but an organization like and the UN organizations, they normally ask for a minimum graduate for being an intern in our system. You can wait for some time and we'll welcome you all to be part of our system, our programs. And so not only here, if those certain students go overseas for studies, they can also apply for internships there. For example, if you're in Canada, you can go and work in Montreal, where you have a number of headquarters. You have the Montreal Protocol, which is not part of this series which I have talked about, but you can do there. Or the CBD, the Convention on Biodiversity's headquarters is also located in Montreal. You can go there. Or in Germany, in Bonn, we have some of the conventions secretariats, so you can participate in that. And then you're already doing some good projects. I mean, what I heard today, I think just develop on those. This will trigger interest, and later on you can even do your graduation and your master's thesis or your MPhil thesis. You can actually do your PhD thesis. And again, as I said, it's not just science. You can do environment related work in all subjects, whether it's economics, it's law, political science, science of course is there. So it transcends across different subjects. But I think that's about all. I think I've taken quite a lot of your time. And I just want to say that you need to start today. You've already started actually. And choose any convention of your choice. I mean, we've heard of so many conventions. There are more, but these are the key ones which relate directly with biodiversity. So I wanted to highlight some of these. And just as I said, go to their website. There's a lot of information. There's so many things you can do. There's a lot of information. You can sign up for newsletters and you can start your work today. And thank you all. Best of luck for your future journeys. And I hope you'll all somehow contribute to the conservation goal. We are committed and very passionate about it. I'm sure these MCOPs that WWF has started a few years ago has generated a lot of interest. I'm sure there are some who have already taken subjects. We should actually, Neha and Avni, we should try and track what these students are doing, because it's very important to see how many people have got really enthused with the work we are doing. I think this is a great platform that you have created for students. And I myself learned quite a bit, because I'm not a student of biology, or I have not done biodiversity also. I'm a student of economics, commerce, and law. But just out of my interest, I have been working in this field, and I'll continue to do that. I'm available anytime, 20 hours a day. So I'll be happy to work with the students on their career growth, guiding them, mentoring them. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Pant. And I was just telling, the team that you were a part of the first MCOP, and then we kept trying really hard to, bring you back. But because of your busy schedule, we could not. But we are very, very fortunate that you could be a part of MCOP this year and you could address the students. And thank you so much. And it was a lovely session. And unfortunately, we could not have it earlier. We wanted to have it earlier. But I think
I'm so
this
sorry that day. I wanted to thank you. Sorry, I forgot to do that. I wanted to thank you for agreeing for the swap, because that day was a very busy day, and I had
I understand.
I prefer to do a little preparation, because my memory is also going. Although I have worked on these things, but I don't remember much, so I had to have some notes, and it was taking time. Couldn't take time off my busy schedule.
No, I think so. Thank you so much. I think so. It's all fallen in place, because this was a quick brush up of what the students have learned over past 4 days.
Okay.
And this kind of sums up everything very beautifully. And each one, I'm sure, is inspired to take the targets and the action plans forward. The recordings are going to be still available, Dr. Pant. So we will send out the recording, link to the recording as well. So that, and if you would like to share it with students, you can do that. And it is going to be available to children from across the country. So thank you so much for your time and for the lovely presentation.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the team which helped us, both from WWF and UNDP, to make this happen. Thank you very much. Thanks to all students. I hope you have learned something, and you'll go back and start, as I said, looking at websites and getting more information. And there are a lot of organizations which work on these different conventions within the country, so we can put you in touch with them. You can reach out to us. We're really happy to guide you. Thank you.
Caroline, you can take over now.
Thank you. Thank you to Dr. Pant for that insightful session. So we are at the end of our session today and of MCOP 6, at least these 4 days. Thank you everyone for actively listening and participating for today's MCOP session. As we have asked you in the previous sessions, we would like to hear from you a few words about what you're feeling. How has everything that you have heard and learned assimilated? And you can just let us know in the chat box a few words. We would also request you to please fill in the feedback form. Are we going to show the QR code on screen? Yeah. We'll also share a link. So yes, can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, so there's a QR code on your screen, so you can scan it and let us know your feedback for MCOP. And the link is also there in your chat box. So I'm very happy for everyone who participated. Thank you, Kushal. We're glad to know that the session was informative and knowledgeable for you. So we'll give you a few minutes to scan the code, to copy the link. Please do give us feedback. It will be very helpful in planning similar such sessions. I would like to take this moment to thank all the entities who have made MCOP possible, our expert speakers, our partners, including and not limited to UNEP, IUCN, CBT, Capgemini, and others. And thank you, of course, to the schools, educators, and students. Are we ready to end?